Man, listen, I didn't know whether or not I was motherfucking. I didn't know I was actually goddamn live. Listen, I was over here setting everything the fuck up and whatnot. Shit. God damn it. Anyway. So, where am I at, bro? Like, listen, let's grab this. Pop out the chat. Copy this. Copy. We'll throw this into OBS. Add browser. Okay. Paste. Delete. Okay. And I gotta hit shift when I do this shit. Fucking retarded. Alright. So, let's see here. Does it look good? It does look good. Okay. Anyway, right? Man, listen, did I hit like go live, bro? I'm pretty sure I didn't even hit go live. Like keeping it 100, right? But anyway, it says I'm fucking live. Anyway, so listen, I was sitting here listening to like fucking Jimmy Dore, right? And he was talking to some Scottish dude about like some Scottish stuff or whatever the case is. And listen, I'm not like 100% the best at like things like fucking pool, right? You know what I mean? Keeping it 100% with you. Right, so you're gonna see me make some terrible ass shots, and you're gonna see me make some like amazing shots, and that's mostly because like I'm just like really fucking lucky. You know, what I mean, I'm gonna close some of these extra windows that are open right now. I didn't even see what the fuck went in, but anyway, right? So like, you know, on a regular basis, I fight against people who stand here and think that like these people are evil, right? And the truth is that these motherfuckers aren't evil, right? These people like what they are is they're managers, right? And managers manage things. That's literally like what managers do, right? That's what they're like trained to do. They're trained to like manage systems. And the government is one big ass goddamn system. That's why capitalism works really well for them. It's why everybody thinks that like, you know, the problem is like lobbyists or whatever the case is, right? When the truth is, right, is that like it doesn't matter if there's lobbyists or not. It doesn't matter if they're getting paid or not. Right, they're going to promote like the company that's going to be able to give them the best opportunity to stand here and like continue to run the government in the way it's being run, so that they don't have to worry about whether or not like GDP goes up. Which, by the way, is really the big problem. In the end of the day, right? It's literally like the whole GDP number go up thing, right? Is really actually like the major issue when it comes down to it. Like it's this idea of, how do I put this? We as humans, right, especially like in the past like 100 years, have really, really, really liked the idea of science, right? And it's like in government, you know what I mean, when it comes down to it. We've kind of always liked science. Yeah, shit, I know I hit the wrong damn ball, man. You ain't got to fucking tell me shit. You know what I mean? But like, we've really enjoyed the idea of using science to run like our civilization. And it's not just like, you know, oh man, listen, like fucking, you know, we should stand here and do fact-based, evidence-based shit. See, look at this, bro, fucking scratching for no fucking reason whatsoever. Right? It's not about like standing here doing like, you know, like, oh, we're going to have like fact-based things and things that are based on logic. We're going to do the best thing, right? That's literally the issue, right? In the end of the day, because like human beings, right, regardless of like what the outcome is, right, we'll always probably do the best thing for like human beings, right? It's like, listen, if you have like an area that has a whole bunch of squirrels, right? You really don't actually have to help the squirrels out. The squirrels will just be squirrels, right? They'll run around and eat acorns and shit, and they'll do squirrel things. You don't need to manage the squirrels, right? The only reason you're managing like any of these type of animals as a whole is literally because of the fact that like, you know, they're interrupting how human beings live, right? Like if it wasn't for humans, you don't have to manage shit, right? Like all these animals, like they'll just run shit on their own. They'll just do what animals do. Right? Human beings are no different, right? We'll just do what it is that we do. Now, is that to say that, like, we shouldn't have, like, rules and stuff? No, not at all, right? Well, you should probably always have rules, in the end of the day, right? Because human beings are, like savage creatures who are like capable of like destroying a lot of things. And oftentimes reality doesn't catch up quick enough to us, right? Which is a bit of a bitch, right? Like we stopped having children because we couldn't afford to have children, right? Which is like one of the most negative things any species can do. But due to our lifespan and our ability to like, stand here and like have like these magic things like oil, right? Our reality of like what's going on isn't going to catch up with us for a while, right? It's going to take a long time for us to notice that this is like a major fucking headache and issue. You know what I'm saying? This is some shit that like a lot of people aren't going to stand here and like really comprehend. Like, and I apologize for that, right? Everybody that's waiting for the collapse is right. I'm going to say this, right? Like everybody who's standing here going like, man, listen, like this can't continue on this way. You are 1,000,000% right. You know what I mean? The world cannot continue on this way much longer. Is the rest of that sentence, right? And any change we make is going to negatively affect people, right? Whether it's a person who stands here. By the way, this is YouTube playables or anybody, who wants to know where I'm playing this at. It's super interesting. It doesn't have multiplayer, which I'm fucking fine with. I don't really care. I just bullshit, and hang out and do whatever the fuck it is I do, right? But, yeah, what was I going to say? I was going to say some stuff. Yeah, listen, so, like, I completely derailed my train of thought. I hate when I do that shit, bro. Like, motherfuckers put quarters on my tracks all the time. I be putting quarters on my own tracks, keeping it a buck, right? This is what managers do. It's why everybody thinks that managers are evil, right? It's why everybody like really thinks like, oh man, they're evil. They're trying to like, fuck us up and fuck me over all the time. And, they're here to destroy my family. No, right? They're here to run a system, right? There's always negatives and positives to everything managers do. But ultimately, managers are there to manage the system. Now, again, the problem gets back to like this scientific based thing. The best measurement that they have is GDP, right? It's like IQ, right? And like IQ is pretty much just like, you motherfucker, bro. Lucky. Computer be getting lucky. I'll be real, bro. He did not try that shit. Like, yo, fucking faggot ass computer. Bro, listen. Yeah, like, so these managers, right, as a whole, they have to have like metrics in order to judge what it is that they do, right? And as I said, it's like IQ, right? Like IQ is your best judge of how somebody's going to end up doing, right? At certain tasks, at most tasks as a whole. And that's why, like they say, like when you make arguments about like human beings, you go, man, listen, IQ's been going up and da-da-da and all this shit, right? Like we're getting smarter as people and, all these things. Which is number one, first, a lie, right? But secondly, it's a way to judge how human beings are doing because like you're more capable of doing things if, like you're, like smarter, right? Like you can solve more problems. You can, do more things. You can make more money. You can be more productive in the system, right? So, and this is where GDP is. GDP is the same thing, right? GDP encompasses all things, right? It's like, oh, so, you have productive capability and like, oh, you have like all this, ability to like have food and, you're able to like stand here and have excess and you have all these things that you're able to do, right? And it encompasses all things, right? And managers like numbers like this, number one. And number two, also, it's a way to judge yourself against other people, right? There's a rapper named Jadakiss, who I really like. You know what I'm saying? One of my favorite rappers. I'll be honest with you, I kind of been getting back into like, fucking my knucklehead shit from being a pop, past whatever, fucking couple of weeks. Right? I'm getting back to putting bars on paper and whatnot just because I'm just like, man, listen, I'm bored. You know what I mean? Keeping it 100, I'm fucking bored. And like, I want to just enjoy doing things again and get back to, you know what I mean, whatever. It's probably like a midlife crisis, keeping it a buck, you know? Or, I don't know. I feel like I've been having a midlife crisis since I was like 28. But neither here nor there. He said this bar, he says, listen, fucking, when you're street smart, money's your report card. Kind of a sharp ass line, right? At the end of the day. But, you know what I mean? Money is your report card. What's GDP? It's a measurement of it's a measurement of all gross domestically produced fucking goods, right? In currency. So, you know what I mean? It is literally a report card based on currency, right? And so you can stand here and go like, man, listen, like fucking Sweden, you know, has a better quality of life or whatever it is, you know, like their happiness index is whatever. And then the managers, they stand here and go, yeah, but Sweden's GDP is like $12 in a bag of fucking, you know what I mean, Totino's pizza rolls or whatever, right? And that's kind of their mentality. See, man, listen, I fucking hate this shit, bro. Like, yo, I can't never make a proper bank shot. Although I made his, like a fucking piece of shit. Right? Yeah, but so that's literally what's going on. Yeah, I know, bro. I know what I did. Okay, you don't gotta fucking tell me. I know what I did. You piece of shit ass computer. I fucking hate you, right? So that's kind of where things are, right? You know, so we get to judge ourselves, and especially since, you know, we like all these things were developed during what was known as the Cold War, right? And for all you like little, you know, what I mean, young little babies out here who have no idea what the Cold War was like. Basically, it's what it is right now, except like with a country who was, you know what I mean, like functionally dangerous and we could talk shit about all the time, right? Like, you know, you can't really like be racist anymore towards a people. It used to be like you just had open racism where like, you know, like all the Ruskies are coming to get us or whatever, right? Like little... There was an argument I heard one guy one time make. He said Rocky Balboa or Sylvester Stallone ended the Cold War, right? Which is a brilliant little like fucking tidbit of like, you know, 20th century, you know, like thought patterns. It's like that Kawasaki guy is like fucking, oh, this is the end of time or end of history and shit, right? Yeah, listen, I know I just called him Kawasaki. I do realize what I just did. Okay, I understand this. Okay, I was looking at boat motors earlier. Right, because I just bought a boat. Not like a yacht, you know what I mean? Like a little 12-foot John boat with a hole in it. So it was like $100. I bought it from a crackhead, right? And they was like, oh, man, listen. Like, yo, they're like, man, listen, you bought a boat from a crackhead? Like, yes. You know how many things I have that, like, fell off of a fucking truck or were stolen from somebody or some shit? But this one, you know what I mean, legitimately wasn't stolen. They're just a crackhead, you know what I mean, who wanted money and had a boat. Well, actually, they had their parents' boat, but, you know what I mean, but their parents are old, so... You know how this works, man. We're getting to that age. Take advantage of the boomers dying, folks. You know what I mean? Getting old. You know, eat. You'll get some things. And I'm be real, man. Listen, like, so half of this is going to be me bitching about nonsense, and half of this is really going to be like what the stream's supposed to be about. Right. But it's all kind of tied together in the end of the day. So, like, I was looking up, like, boat trailers. Check this out. I can go get a boat trailer from Harbor Freight for $400, right? And I didn't say Harbor Freight, Chinese garbage, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't fucking care, right? Don't support Chinese. I agree. 1,000,000%, right? But on the same level, I need a boat trailer. You know what I mean? Because I don't feel like throwing this bitch on top of my roof every time I want to go fishing, right? So, and yeah, this boat got a hole in it too, so like I got to fix that. But it's fiberglass, so shouldn't be too fucking hard. Anyway, so I was, what's the word I was looking for, man? I was going to say some shit. Oh, so I was looking for boat trailers, and like literally, I can come up from Harbor Freight for $400. Cheapest boat trailer I found on like Facebook Marketplace was like $1,200. I'm like, yo, what is wrong with you people? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You people are fucking completely illogical. It's fucking dumb as shit. Like legit, this is stupid. Like, yo, what are y'all doing? You know, like, I understand, like, y'all need money, but, like, I feel like you don't know how the market works. You know what I mean? Like, it's completely irrational. But it's like motherfuckers trying to sell a Corvette. They be like, well, listen, my Corvette, best Corvette. It's going to cost you $25 million to get my fucking Corvette because it was painted on this day, on this place, with this color, right? It's a one of one. I'm like, of course it's a one of one, bro. Like, listen, they only produce like 4 or 5. Bro, listen, why does it do that shit, bro? Listen, now I'm going to have ball in hand. Right? You fucking piece of shit game. Right? Anyway, right? So, yeah, fucking... What, man? Yo, the computers be giving love, bro. Just be like, yo, listen, I got you. I seen you fucked up, bro. Like, listen, that is, man, computers should do that more often. Where it's like, listen, I seen that was a complete mistake, and you can't take it back. We need to have like, there's no Control Z on this bitch. By the way, the Zoomers Control Z allows you to like, you know what I mean, make up, like, get rid of your mistake that you just made. You know what I mean, take it back to where it was. But sometimes it's a bad option to do that. Like when I'm making beats, don't ever hit Control Z when you're making beats. Did I knock the 8-ball in? Fuck, I did. God damn it. Anyway. Yeah, so, you know, I mean, I bought a boat off a crackhead, and I got to get a trailer for it. And I was looking for motors and shit, too. Right, which, by the way, listen, I'm probably going to buy a Chinese motor because, like, why should a lawnmower motor, right, as a whole, right, which is basically what you run on, like, in the river, we don't run anything bigger than 9.9s most of the time, unless, like, you're some rich yuppie who wants to show off to everybody about, like, how big your penis is or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Fucking, like, most people run what's known as a 9.9, which means that you don't have to legally get, a boat license, right? Anything under 10 horsepower, you don't need a boat license. So you run everything's like a 9.9. So your lawnmower in your yard that you cut your grass with is like 6.5 horsepower. Now, I understand that, like, you know, fucking there's, you know, some lawnmowers out here that are like whatever, you can do all types of crazy shit with, and people race them and all the dumb shit, whatever. But I'm talking about your regular push mower, right? And those are like, you know, for the entire mower is like $500. You can go and look at like a 9.9 motherfucking, or like a 7.5, whatchamacallit, like fucking boat motor. And I swear to God, it's like $2,900, right? It's ridiculous. And I know it's like boats like break out another 1,000. No, listen, Brad, it's literally like the market's dumb, right? It's because of, it's the same thing with the cars. Like they have to meet all these stupid specifications and regulations and shit. And because of the fact that, like, managers are really bad at, like, their jobs just to begin with, you know what I mean? Which is a crazy thing, you know what I mean? It really is bananas, like, how bad they are at what they do, right? Like, these managers are so bad at what it is that they do that they literally, like, aren't using the waterways for any real purpose, right? And, you know, this is not like a 100% a result of a like a lobbying thing. This is more of a result of like them standing here going like, oh, listen, you know, instead of having people, you know what I mean, like make money and utilize like their natural resources around them, right? We should build roads because like, yo, listen, as a manager, like I'm gonna be able to manage the roads, right? And then that creates more management jobs to manage like all the roads and the transportation and the laws and the regulations and, you know what I mean, like the maintenance and all the things that goes into fucking roads, which again, dumb, right? And on top of that, rivers tend not to run east to west. They run north to south. So that's a bit of an issue. But for the vast majority of like human beings who live near rivers, most of us never use them, which is kind of bananas, right? Like, you know what's way cheaper than a bridge? A boat. Legit. Like, yo, it's bananas, right? They did a crazy statement. Right? But like, you know, instead of having like boats or promoting boats, which, you know what I mean, would have you be, you know what I mean, much more reliant upon your local resources and, you know what I mean, your local community and have you, you know what I mean, have like an actual culture, all these type of things that, you know what I mean, go into being like, you know, a human being, you know, you end up, you know what I mean, with these ideas of, hey, look, you know, let's, computer, you trying to be fancy, banking the shot and shit for no reason. You could have shot that down the side. Listen, this computer be like letting you in. Which I get mad at that. You ever had like, yo, listen, You ever have like your parents, you play them in like pool or some shit, and they be throwing shots to you and shit, and you be like, bro, listen, just win the fucking game and stop throwing the fucking game. I know you're better than this. You know what I mean? Like, like, listen, it's okay to rack them up on me. You know what I mean? I'm just here to play and hang the fuck out. Notice I ain't really like, dude, I'm not making any money over this. There's no status. There's no multiplayer. Just I like playing pool, right? And it occupies my head. It's like playing basketball. I love playing. I was telling my fucking baby's mom this the other day. I was like, listen, I love playing basketball, right? It's one of my favorite activities to do, right? You know what I mean? Like when it comes to exercise, like I just, because like I like playing the game. You know what I mean? There was, again, another rapper said, like, why do you think NBA players be at Rutgers, right? You know what I mean? They just love the game. You know, like, and Rutgers is, where you go just to practice and, you know what I mean? Like, work out your new moves and keep in shape, all that type of stuff, right? Like, you'll catch local, like, basketball teams who, you know what I mean? Like, high school basketball teams, they'll be at, like, regular courts. You know what I mean? Like, just hanging out in the park, right? You know what I mean? Playing, like, regular players. Why? Because, like, yo, listen, they love the game. Something is, a lot of people don't understand these type of facts. You know what I mean? Listen. By the way, the amount of English this fucking physics engine puts on this game is crazy. Anyway, right. Yeah. So like it's not just like lobbyists and shit. And it's in particular it's really not lobbyists, Like fucking managers manage shit. And that's what this is, right? We live in a management science based fucking system. Right? And that's about 99% of your fucking problems. Right? There's some crazy stuff about cars that like only economists know. Right? Because like most people don't think about cars in an economic sense, right? They think about them in like a transportation sense. You don't really think about them in an economic sense. Did you know there's 20,000 moving parts in the average car, right? And having 20,000 parts, that means, you know what I'm saying, that's a big supply chain, right? It's a lot of steps. It's a lot of like GDP being produced, right? So like in a lot of GDP being produced, that means like, listen, it's really good for like the managers, right? You know what I'm saying? The managers really like auto manufacturing. That's why we bail them out all the fucking time. Like every country that has like, cars being manufactured, say like Germany or Japan or the US or wherever it is, I mean, they subsidize the shit out of their car manufacturing, right? Why? It's not about transportation, right? It's literally about the fact that like it employs a lot of fucking people. You know what I mean? In decent fucking jobs. In manufacturing that pulls steel out of the earth, that has transportation, that has logistics involved, it has all these things, right? Oh, man, listen, I thought the game was over. Yo, I'm dumb, right? I am. Listen, I can't reach that from there. Where am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? We can do this, maybe? I think I hit that fucking green ball first. God damn it. Right? But that's just the reality of shit, right? When it comes down to it, is that, these are the type of things that like people don't understand, right? And like you ask, say, Americans don't understand class. They have a really hard time with it, right? They have a very hard time with the idea of class. And you go, oh man, listen, why are these managers this way? You know what I mean? Or like, why do they think, you know what I mean, that like, we're just gonna like do this or whatever the case is, right? It's because like, think about when's the last time you talked to an Amish person? Now, I'll be honest with you, in a regular game, I would have lost right there because I scratched on the 8 ball. But like, listen, it's not in this one. I only lose if you scratch and make the 8 ball at the same time, which is kind of dumb. I'm gonna keep it 100, right? But, like, think about the Amish, right? So, like, have you ever had a conversation with an Amish person? Like, when's the last time you did? You talk to them all the time. I don't, right? You know what I mean? So like, how am I going to really understand, what I mean? Like what an Amish person is about. Like if you put me in charge of the Amish, it would go very badly because I know nothing about the Amish. I'd have to let the Amish run themselves. I'm right back. I got to pee. cat finally settled the fuck down, man. Listen, it's been all bananas all early this morning. Fucking, literally, I tried to eat like my motherfucking, like I got like some of these, like, I don't know what the fuck you call them, man. Listen, little rice Chex joints with some like cocoa powder on them, whatever. Right? Because I wanted some fucking munchies. You know what I mean? Like, keeping it 100, right? I just want some munchies. Right? Why would you do that, bro? That was like what we used to call a J Toro victory, you bitch ass motherfucker. Anyway, right? So, I don't know how chocolate affects cats. Good look, dog. You know what I'm saying? I got one of my balls in, right? But yeah, so like, if you put me in charge of the Amish, right, it would go really fucking badly. Why? Because I'm not fucking Amish. I don't know anything about the Amish. I don't talk to the Amish. Just like us, they don't know shit about us, right? They have no idea how we feel or think, and like the way they remember things is as a child, right? Like living amongst like regular people, and it was not a positive experience for them, right? Because if you keep it all the way 100, right, keep it a buck, keep it a bean, right, as it were, right. And I mean, the truth is, in the end of the day, that like, yeah, where had I seen that, bro? Like, listen, that was a bad shot. It was terrible, right? But like, if you keep it all the way 100, bro, listen, apparently I ain't got no shot on that, so we're gonna go out to this blue one, right? Being a child kind of sucks in the Western world, right? You know what I mean? Like, I know some of y'all might have like some positive experiences about being a kid, but like I promise you, like none of them were actually really fucking good, right? Like, there was a dude one time, I think it was Eddie Griffin, right? Yeah, Eddie Griffin, right? Not Eddie Murphy, Eddie Griffin. Yeah, right. He made this movie called The New Kid, I think it was, right? And in this movie, what happened is like this kid had to go to a new school, right? And like, so he wanted to take this unpopular kid and make him popular, right? And one of the things he said, listen, what I mean, school is just like prison. You know what I mean? Like, yo, the pussy you want, you ain't getting, and the pussy you getting, you don't want, right? Like, listen, like, that's some real ass shit in the end of the day. Like, it's some honest to God stuff. Like, you're not, like, school was not enjoyable, right? Like, fucking, you weren't making any money. You had all these fucking stupid fucking rules. You had to show up somewhere every day for fucking free. You know what I mean? Like, you had to be up in the morning and, like, have to do, like, nonsense that, didn't make any fucking sense. Right? You had to be around people you wouldn't talk to if your hair was on fire and you held the monopoly on water, and they held the monopoly on water, right? Like, you had all this shit that you were dealing with when you were fucking, like, when you were a kid, and you fucking, like, it was miserable, right? And then on top of that, you got your parents standing here going, like, you need to do this because, like, it's good for you for later, right? It's that whole, like, eat your vegetables shit, which I get, you know what I mean? Like, 100%, I got kids, I make them eat their fucking vegetables, right? You know what I mean? Like, as a human, you gotta, like, eat your goddamn, bro, why you being fancy? Look at his fancy pants, Rich McGee over here, fuck you, right? You know what I mean? Right? And so, like, that's what they remember about school. It's why, like, you talk to guys like Gilded Pooh, right? You know what I mean? Who, like, I got a lot of love for, but, like, his mentality about him and Floyd had the same mental about, like, religion, right? And there's a reason for it. They're from, like, kind of like the same area of the country, the same region, right? It's that Midwest type of thing, that, that fucking bread belt area, right? And, they hate, like, all this shit that I personally don't have a problem with, because on the East Coast, church isn't a mandatory thing, right? Like, I'm like, listen, I told my parents, I was like, I don't really enjoy this. Right? And they're like, well, you ain't got to go. You know what I mean? You can just hang out, whatever. You know what I mean? How's this looking over here? Bro, listen. Yo, look at that. Yo, that pool fucking scene is sick, bro. Listen, yo, bro, apparently I got the filter on this bitch. Keep it at 100. It keeps crashing. Stupid thing, right? Anyway, right? So, listen, I can't even fucking really, like, see the goddamn fucking joint, right? Who the fuck showed up? Listen, Stone Metzen guy, Cappy, Joshua Demers, what up? You know what I mean? Yeah, listen, I'm just gibbering because, like, I'm fucking bored. You know what I mean? Right? But anyway, Yeah. So all these management people, right? They fucking hate like normal human beings. They hate, you know what I mean? Like they hated having to be around like them as kids, right? And they went from that to going to college, right? And when they went to college, they ended up standing here being around people who would just kiss their ass all the fucking time about whatever nonsense they were going through. And consider it like the same thing as like dealing with females, right? Like how many times you come up to you've been talking to a female and she's like, I was abused and I did this and da 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 whatever, and it's always nonsense, right? It's always like garbage. Like I was talking to a bro the night and she was like, listen, I got fibromyalgia, and I was like, oh, you got the white girl disease, right? And she's like, fuck you, right? Listen, but y'all, that's just, you know what I mean? That's just reality of things. You know what I mean? He's like, I ain't gonna lie. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna stand here and be like, yeah, listen, fucking, like, yeah, that's a real thing. 8 ball, motherfucker. God damn it. Listen. Right? Mm. But anyway, back to the conversation at hand. Right? Fucking, yeah, man. So, this is what all this shit is, right? These are a class of people, right? And they come from a certain place with a certain attitude about certain peoples, right? And they haven't talked to like any of these people like since, like fucking, god damn it, the last holiday they had. I swear to God, fucking, why am I scratching? Now you got 2 fucking color balls and he's gonna make one. God damn it, Brisson, you stole my work, you piece of shit. Garbage ass computer. Fucking machine. I don't like losing to machines. Oh man, listen, look at you, bro. Getting it. Anyway, what we're talking about? Talking about some shit. Anyway, yeah. So like, they're not evil, right? At the end of the day, none of these people are fucking evil. They're just, shitbags, right? As a whole, right? And they're spoiled little rotten ass fucking kids who, are like still upset about what happened to them when they were children. They never got to fuck over it. That's why I like to go to fucking counseling, right? And then the counseling just, locks in all their bullshit. And they go, I'm more healthy as a human, right? Like, no, the fuck you're not, right? Like, real shit. And here's the thing, like, I'm gonna keep this all the way funky, right? Because I've been to counseling before, right? Because like, I had to get over my drinking, so I had to go through like, fucking rehab and shit for that, and that shit fucking sucked, right? But like, one of the things I did have to get over was the idea of like, yeah, listen, drinking makes you a man, I had to get over that idea, right? Because like, it's not a positive thing for like your body, for like, like, oh man, listen, I bust my ass, I come home and have a beer so I can, da da da. Again, stupid fucking ideas, right? Just as a whole, they're just dumb ideas, that are fucking retarded, and they just lead me to be in bad things. But also, I'm not really good at drinking, right? Like fucking, it's like Doug Stanhope says, right? He's like, listen, all the rules are made by people, right? The rules for drugs and alcohol are made by 2 type of people: people who fucking don't do them, and people who are really shitty at doing them, right? And everybody else has got to suffer. Because I assume there's like functional drug addicts up to a certain point. I don't really know, keeping it all the way 100 with you. Like, I don't know. I'm assuming like some motherfuckers can do it without, being like terrible. See if I make this. I did. Good shit. Dun 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 dun. Right. Listen, ran that motherfucker, bro. Left you with 4 balls on the table, bitch. And even then, I put 2 of them in. You motherfucker. Stole my shit. Teach you. Yeah. So anyway. So where did all this come from? Well, a long time ago, and long ago in a faraway place, there was like fucking witches at that time, as my family history says, right? What you had is you just had human beings just living, right? You know what I mean? And then being just like human beings who just lived every day, and had families and like, grew food and, fucking took care of each other and, just survived and existed, right? It's a crazy ass concept that, most motherfuckers have no idea about. You know what I mean? This is a foreign concept to most humans, right? They were kind of like the Amish. They just lived. You know what I mean? And some of them were more successful. Some of them weren't. Same as the Amish. There's some Amish out here who own like mad properties and have all types of shit because they just want to be more successful. And there's some motherfuckers who just do their shit, right? And they help out in the barn raising every once in a while. Nothing wrong with that at all. And this is kind of like the problem in the end of the day. Are you going to hit your ball or mine? No, you're going to hit mine. Because, like, oh, you suck. Fuck shit bag computer. You're garbage. You garbage. You garbage. Right? Garbage. You garbage. Right? So, yeah, anyway, right? So, basically, right, what ended up happening is we ended up, like, finding oil, right? And oil was amazing, okay? Oil is like one of the most amazing things on the planet, right? Ah, there we go, right? Oil's fucking magic, right? And the reason why they say, like, fucking, they say, what, yo, did you just jump over that seven ball? I saw you just jump over that. How did you just jump over that seven ball? Brad, listen, there's no jumping in this game. How the fuck did you do, Brad, listen, are you gonna knock in two at once? Oh, you missed. Why'd you hit the pink ball in, bro? Like, could have knocked that pink ball into that ball. Like, it didn't hold up. But anyway. Yeah, so all this shit, right, came out of, like, that industrial, like, fucking mentality. Good luck. Where, like, you had all these things, these resources, and these people, and, like, this trade that had to, like, have like government intervention and shit, right? And all of a sudden, like fucking you had like the Cuyahoga River twice a year catching on fire, right? And they go, well, listen, we should probably stop that. You know what I mean? And that makes, oh, bitch, I'm a miss, bro. Listen, I hate them long shots, dude. Like they're so hard to judge on the computer, right? They're hard to judge in real life. I'm not good at it. Well, it goes along with that shit. I can't draw a straight line either. Probably have that same type of mentality. I don't know. Anyway, fucking like yeah. So yeah, don't. God damn it! Listen, you motherfuckers. Why does it always curve? Because you gotta hit it hard when you're fucking, when you're trying to chip the side of it. Fucking bitch. There we go. I didn't even let go of the fucking button before it shot. I swear to God, bro. Like this fucking thing's ridiculous. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. We were talking about some shit, man. Listen, we was saying something. Oh yeah, like where does fucking people come from? Yeah, so like literally though, but here's the thing, right? This is really important to understand. So everybody had these at one point in their civilization, right before they collapsed, right? You had this massive bureaucracy and then everything fucking falls to fucking shit, right? Every fucking civilization has done this since the beginning of time, right? So for instance, what am I? I'm stripes? Yeah. So, for instance, what had happened was in Babylon, right, during the Bronze Age collapse, they had the same thing, right, where there was just way too many people, right, living off of, what I mean, like, the fucking farmers' work, right, and it became very, very top heavy. And we're on the same level right now. Like, the number one employer in the United States is, it's not Walmart, son. It's the federal government, right? Yeah. It's the government, right? The government is the number one employer in the U.S., right? 20 million strong. Did I just knock the eight ball in? I swear to God, another game I lost. Fucking bitch. Pieces of shit, right? So, like, yeah, that's, I mean, like, 20 million people work for the fucking government and shit, right? So 20 million human beings work for the goddamn government and whatnot, right? Like, not just the federal government, it's the state and local too. And then on top of that, you add in like another like 20 million, like, whatchamacallit, fucking private contractors, right? Like, the people who build like the, F-15 and, all the other shit and F-35 and, they go and clean toilets and they give haircuts in Congress and, they fly, what I mean, or they wipe off the logs on Epstein's motherfucking plane and shit, right? Right. There's a lot of government workers, right? And this is something that Yarvin said recently. I really liked. He said, "We don't have a whatchamacallit, an executive branch. We have an administrative branch, right?" He's not wrong about that. You know what I mean? Like, we literally don't, like, it's not executive, right? Because like the fucking president isn't in charge of it, right? The president in charge of it, he could literally just get rid of these things anytime he wanted to. Like, get out of here. I don't fucking need a department of whatever, right? But these people stay here forever, right? They just there running the government, doing a day to day, and they think that they're necessary. They all live in the same place. They all talk to the same people all the fucking time, right? Which is why, again, they seem like they are evil, right? And the reason is because of the fact that literally they don't know who you are, right? Like, yo, you don't know these people. They don't know you. Bro, listen, I would have shot that red ball like that. It would have never went in. It would have bounced off the side. Because, like, yo, listen, you're a little fucking punks. Give me love, give me love, give me love. That'll do. Listen, I'll take that. See if I can do some trickery here. Maybe. Nope. Why does it keep curving, bro? Like, I don't have any English on. Look, there's no English on my ball, right? See, there's no English whatsoever. It's just like dead center straight. But all of a sudden, be spinning the shit out of this ball. Which the physics for that is insane. But anyway, yeah. So, like, they don't know you, right? They have no idea who you are. And we're at the point now where little, like, government workers are creating government workers, right? It's the same as, like, teachers and shit. Like, TK's parents were teachers. And then one of TK's brothers and sisters are teachers. Or TK's grandparents were teachers, right? You know what I mean? This is government workers beget government workers beget government workers beget government workers, right? It's just over and over and over and over and over and over and over, right? Just more and 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 more fucking government workers, right? And eventually get to the point where, like, it's a class of human beings, which is where we are right now. These are a management class, the professional management class. Now, not only do they work in, you know what I mean, like government, they also work in the corporations, which is literally part of the fucking government, right? Like, we can stand here and try to pretend that these corporations aren't government entities, but I mean, like, you know, like, libertarians are dumb. Like, it's what's it like, man? Listen, it's like saying, you know, like, oh, you know, trying to think of a good way to put this, because, like, there's a really good analogy to make here. I know there is, right? We're saying, hold up, we gotta fucking do this. Oh, you bitch. Anyway, right? Yeah, saying a corporation isn't like a government, right, is kind of like saying, what's a good way of putting this? Because there is a really good way of putting this, man. Legit. I know there is. There's a really cool analogy to make with this. Right? I mean, I know there is, like 100%. There's a way to say this that's like fucking really, really clever. Because, like, corporations wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the government, right? It's like saying ice cream isn't like fucking milk, right? You know what I mean? Like, fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like, yo, listen, it's like saying dogs aren't a human creation, right? It's like saying dogs don't like fucking belong to people, right? You know, I'm trying to think here, man. There's a really good way to put this. I'm trying to think of it. Oh, I can't hit that. Can't hit that either. What can I hit? Listen. Said fancy pants, Rich McGee over here. Fuck you. Go in. No, bitch. I'm trying to think, man. Listen. Yeah, it's like saying like you did that on purpose, you little bitch. That was some bitch ass shit right there, dude. Legit. Anyway, right? Yeah. Like saying corporations aren't part of the government is like, oh, look at that, man. Listen, I can do a combo right here. It's like saying like, you know, fucking bitch. What exists because something else exists? I'm trying to think. I don't know. What? Listen, tired of y'all. I'm so tired of y'all with this scratchy nonsense. The physics is so terrible in this game, but I like it. Right. Listen, I feel like I have whatchamacallit on here, bro. Like, do I have a filter on here? Yeah, let's get rid of the filter. Yes. There we go. Now you can see what's going on. Close. Right. I don't know why this browser isn't working. Right. The browser should be working. Let me delete this. Yes, delete this. And then window capture. Listen, where's the corner of this hat? Hang on here. Let me make this smaller so you can see the whole table. Yeah, that's better. That's much better. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. You know what I mean? Right? Legit. I like that a lot. Who else has been here? Rehab is for quitters. I'm like, yo, fucking, I got you. Yeah, listen, I don't talk about internet drama, bro. I don't do that shit. It's not my fucking bag. I mean, listen, like, I don't really care about internet drama. Like, I can't bring myself to give a fuck, right? You know, don't you go in, you piece of shit. Anyway, yeah, man, listen, somebody in the chat help me out with like a good way to put this, bro. There's a fucking really good way to put this shit, right? Where like, you know, basically like fucking corporations are like basically the government because like, oh, without corporations the government wouldn't exist, without government the corporations wouldn't exist, right? That's just the reality of shit. You know what I mean? It's like saying like fucking you know, it's like saying like fucking Milwaukee's not in fucking Minnesota. You know what I mean? Like, yo, the fuck out of here, bro. Like, it is. You know what I mean? Like, it is. Right? It's dumb. It's a dumb proposition just as a whole, right? Like, without this wouldn't exist. You know? That's kind of where shit's at. Zero what, man? Zero what? Bro, listen, I don't even know what the fuck you talking about, bro. Listen, give me zero fucking whatever clock time or whatever. I don't give a shit. Yeah, so, really, we're going to scratch? Fucking piece. Always scratching all the time, right? So what the hell are we doing? Yeah, so literally like, yo, the corporations and the government. Oh, word, man, listen, you re-break. Yeah, I forgot this game re-breaks if you like fuck up. Oh, good job. You made a ball. Yeah. Like, so the managers run corporations and the government, so like they all kind of are like one and the same, right? You know what I mean? So like, and this is why, you know, fucking, this is why, like, it seems super incestuous with shit. This is why it kind of seems like everything's kind of, like, all tied together, right? Because it kind of is, you know? Boom, bitch. Like that combo. I like that combo. Right? You know, like the same people who run like the government bureaucratic agency, same class of people who run, you know what I mean, like the management, the upper management, and you know what I mean, fucking the and like the corporations and shit, right? And they go to the same schools and they hang out in the same places and they think the same things, right? And it's the same reason why, like, you know, the government has the idea of egalitarianism, right? Why? Like, why would the government care about, like, whether or not people are... that'll do. The corner is dangerous. Listen, right? Why would the government care about whether or not you were racist or sexist or homophobic or transphobic or, like, whatever the case is, right? Why? Because, like, yo, they need more people in the system, right? More people in the system means lower wages. Lower wages means, you know what I'm saying, you can have cheaper goods. Having cheaper goods means that you can have more GDP. Because more people are able to buy shit. More people get loans. Right? You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's a lot of, like, it's a lot of little, like, truths that you hear from, like, you know, these conspiracy theorists about, like, the Federal Reserve and all that type of shit. You stop knocking my red ball back over towards that corner, you motherfucker. Right? Wow, yo, that was vicious, bro. Listen, yeah, that was an amazing shot. Keeping it 100, son. Right? Yo, there has to be like a real pool player on the other side of this because that was ridiculous. I've never seen anything like that. That was crazy. My man literally curved the ball, bro. Like, yo, how did you do that in the pool game? Like, that is fucking bananas. The computer got shots, bro. Like, it just, it got skills. Like, you don't understand. The computer got motherfucking skills in this game. That 8-ball is going to be love for whoever the fuck hits it. I'm telling you, there's a human on the other side of this thing. Like, this is not AI. It's literally probably like an actual Indian. Like Amazon, right? But yeah, it's why they care about all these things, right? And I don't know if like you've noticed that, like, the management recently has decided that like fuck wages as an in general thing, right? They're like, the hell with the wages, right? We don't really care whether or not you're earning any money. Like, that doesn't matter to us, right? What we care about, right, is whether or not like goods are affordable, right? Because more goods being affordable means, right, that like more people can buy shit. Now, here's the problem with this, okay? And this is very important to understand, right? And this is why like the economists and shit are like fucking dumb on this one, right? First off, all the economists are paid for by like, the same like fucking, garbage ass motherfuckers who want immigration, right? And this is this scientific shit again, right? And this is why, again, it seems like it's evil. They're freaking evil. No, listen, they want to make money, right? That's all this shit is. All of them, they all just want to make fucking money, right? They want to make GDP number go up. They want to make stock market number go up, S&P number go up, Dow Jones number go up. You know what I mean? Fucking whatever it is. By the way, they've been moving away from that Dow Jones. Like, they really don't like that shit anymore, right? What do they really like? They really like that S&P, because that S&P is basically, right, a way to like print, or a way to print money, right? And this is a crazy concept I've been thinking about. Some shit I've been like having on my mind as a whole, right? So like basically the premise is that what they do is in any tech company, all it really is upcharging electricity, right? It's like 99% of tech companies, like fucking actual business model. It's just literally upcharging electricity. Yo, bro, listen, hot fire. Don't. That'll do. I got that. I can make that. Listen, I believe I just ran the table on this motherfucker. Yup. As long as it stays away from the motherfucking pockets, we're good. Bada bing, bada boom, baby. Ran the table on this bitch. Oh, wait, did I miss my one ball? I'm fucking dumb. Yo, listen, I got excited. I thought I was done. I'm fucking stupid. Happens. Not paying attention. I don't really care. You know what I mean? Yeah. Right. So, like, again, with the fucking scratch. Why? Why with the fucking scratch? Every fucking time. Listen, go ahead, bro. Re-rack this bitch. I don't care. I'm telling you, it's an actual Indian. Right? So, I guess where the mentality is, right, is that they're stuck on this model that they worked out with like the Chinese, right? Where they're like, listen, we'll just fucking it was scary for a minute, right? Where, in the 1970s, what we did in order to get out of like the motherfucking the stagflation period in the economy that happened, right? What we did is we stood here and we opened up the doors for mass amount of immigration, right? And then, what we ended up doing is we ended up, I don't feel like playing that game. I'll be honest with you. I really don't want to play that game. That game sounds bad. Listen, let's go this way with it. Brad, listen, yeah, you playing that corner with that dude. I'm not going to play in that corner with that dude. Yeah, anyway, right. So what they did to get out of the stagflation periods, they opened the borders, they opened up trade with fucking China, right? And, they moved everything, like overseas and shit, right? Which, like allowed for the market to grow, right? Where in the 1970s, you had basically the unions were eating the motherfucking profits off of. Stay away from that. God damn it. Shit, I knew it was going to happen eventually. I knew it. That corner was so dangerous, right? you had the unions eating the lunch of, the corporations, right? Because like the corporations were standing here, fucking, like yo, they had a labor shortage in America, right? Because like you had all these like fucking guys who were all union up, right? And they were accustomed to making a decent living, right? And that's why we haven't had a raise since then. Now, the thing is, this kind of worked because like there was some wiggle room where like the American populace was getting about like I don't know, it's like 54% of profitability, right? But like fucking the problem is today you don't have that, right? The American public's been getting about like 46%, right? Which is that's all it really took to really destroy the entire fucking American way of life, right? And cause everybody to go into massive amounts of debt to be able to continue to live the way they were living, for like 30 years before then. So with that understanding being said, I don't think that like this shit's going to work this time. But again, we get back to that point of like reality catching up with like fucking these managers shit, right? Is it takes a while, right? This is kind of the issue. I said earlier, I was like, listen, fucking all these people who think that everything's going to collapse are 100% right, right? But the problem is it takes a long fucking time to get there. You know what I mean? Like it takes forever. Stay away from the fucking pocket. Listen, right? So that's kind of where shit gets down to, right? And that's the mental. It takes a long time. And so when everybody goes like, listen, none of this is going to happen in my lifetime. I don't think anyone's right about that, right? Because it only took 40 years to go from, having, like the greatest middle class the world had ever seen to everybody's living under fucking bridges and homeless. And it's looking like that that goddamn Vin Diesel movie. I don't know if anybody remembers that movie, bro. Like, there was a movie Vin Diesel made, right? Where like he was living in like this weird dystopian place and like he was like hunting rabbits and shit. I didn't even say to fucking go yet, bro. Like, listen, I need to get a new mouse. Keeping it a buck. Like, this mouse came with the computer. I should probably just get a different one. Right? Oh, I win, pussy. That's what I thought. Anyway, right? I know what that 413 means. I ain't played 413 games on this bitch. Right? Give it a buck. This shit just came out a couple days ago. These are YouTube playables or fucking super interesting shit. Right? Yo, what up? Shout out to the chat cells. Aurora Boris? Monopoly, but not the board game. Oh, yo, what up, man? Nice to see your parrots on here, whatever fucking birds they are. You know what I mean? Joshua Demmer, Stone Metz, and Guy Cappy. Nice to see everybody out here. Y'all know the deal. You know what I'm saying? A lot of love for y'all motherfuckers. Right? But anyway, back to what the fuck am I doing? I'm shooting at the fucking stripes. Yeah. Okay. Boom. I'll take that. That'll do. You know what I'm saying? Let's get this fucking party started. Right. So, that's kind of where we are right now. Is that, like, everybody's waiting for this bitch to fall the fuck down. And I was thinking about this, right? And why is this so ridiculous? Why couldn't I move? That was dumb. Did I knock in yours or mine? I'm pretty sure I knocked in yours. Yeah. So where the fuck are we at? Oh yeah. So like, okay. First off, right? If anybody wants this bitch to collapse, we need to start breaking things, right? You're not gonna be able to starve these people the fuck out, right? And this is something I came up with too, right? Like, everybody has this attitude of, listen, vote with your feet. Fucking whatever. Just leave the system and all those things, right? It'll choke on its own. It won't, right? They're not gonna like, they'll just replace you with a Mexican, right? It's the same idea as voting, where it's like, like, I'm just not gonna vote. Like, Brad, you're not helping, right? You're literally not helping at all if you don't vote, okay? It's the same as like, oh, listen, ooh, fancy pants, Rich McGee over here. Fuck you. You bitch ass motherfucker with your fancy ass shot. Shit was fancy as fuck. Fuck fancy. Right? Yeah, how about that fancy ass shot, you little bitch? Yeah. So anyway, right? Like, yeah, if you just stop working and check out of the system, right, which is what everybody thinks is going to be like a good idea, right? You're really not helping matters any in the end of the day, right? What you're doing is you're standing here like fucking allowing them to like they're going, oh, thank you, you know what I mean, for leaving. You know what I mean? Now, you know what I mean, what we can do is we can, you know what I mean, just replace you with a Mexican even easier because like you don't even have that fucking job anymore, right? This is kind of like the entirety. Bradley, that was fancy. I'll be honest with you. That was a fancy shot. Fucking fancy pants, motherfucker. Brad, listen. I'm going to lose again, Bradley. You know what I'm saying? Fucking bitch ass motherfuckers. Right. So, I mean, that's kind of where shit's at. Like, it's either A, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you fight for your motherfucking bread, right? Or B, you know what I mean? Like you start guerrilla warfare, you know what I mean, doing like the old, you know, fucking Weather Underground type of shit, Black Panthers ideology. Right. It's one of the two. Like you gotta like literally like you gotta collapse the system, right? If you want this shit to be fixed, it has to either you gotta collapse it or like, you know, you just gotta suck it up and deal with it. Like if you don't have enough nuts to do what you gotta do, it is what it is, right? I don't think the West has enough nuts to do what it needs to do, right? What is it? It's motherfucking people won't fucking start moving until the pain of inaction is more powerful than like the motherfucking pain of action, right? In the end of the day, just reality. You know what I mean? It's how that shit works. You know, like, and here's a cool thing. There are ways to act. There are some cool little ways you can figure this shit out and make shit work, right? Number one is like racism, right? Racism is good. A goddamn fucking 8-ball. Son of a bitch. Right? Like, racism is good. Right? Like, listen, racism will break the system 100%. If you can normalize racism, then they can't put more people into the system as easy. Right? Which makes everything so much simpler to fucking do. Please go in. Thank you. Right? That's actually a cool little hack. Right? Yeah, I mean, but the thing is like, the feds 100% will crack down on anybody being racist, right? Because literally, that is one of the best ways to crack their system is to literally just be racist. You know what I mean? Like, just being racist and not hiring, you know what I mean? Like, Mexicans and shit or Spanish people as a whole don't hire Latinos when they come through, right? You know what I mean? Like, literally, you know what I mean? Like, fucking, that will bust the system. They are not, see, look at that, fancy pants. Listen, I got fancy shit too, motherfucker. You know, yeah. But that is one of the, why? Why do you do these things? Oh, because I didn't hit a fucking rail? Oh. I fucking hate this piece of shit computer. Not my computer, this computer. Computer player. Wow, that is close to going in. I thought that for sure was going to drop. Let's try it. Nope. Don't you knock his shit in. Dumb motherfucker. Stay there. There. God damn it. I'm going to have to get on the other side. I'm telling you. Like, listen, there's an actual Indian on the other side of the spread. This is not an AI. Yeah, but like that's the thing, right? Is that if you want to, like, you know, help this shit fall down, right? That is the best way to do it. You know, I mean, like, I know it seems like, you know what I mean, like fucked up or whatever, but like, you know, best way to do, right? Because like the reality is, right? And this is important to understand. The reality is that, like, you know, reality is taking way too long. Number one. Number two, as people get more comfortable, right? Which motherfuckers are super comfy at this point, right? The motherfuckers is comfy like they sitting in a pair of PJs at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, as motherfuckers get more and more comfortable, they're not really, you know what I mean, gonna be fucking interested in, you know, fucking doing anything. I don't know if you noticed the Zoomers here recently, but how the fuck I scratch on that one, right? Yeah, I don't know if you noticed the Zoomers here recently, bro. Like, they're really bad at everything. You know what I mean? And they're weak. You know what I'm saying? The Zoomers are like some of like the weakest human beings who have ever existed on this fucking planet, right? And like, yo, they're so weak that they literally have like no purpose in being a fucking man. Brad, listen, what the fuck is going on? Like, real shit. That shot should have went in. I'm telling you, actual Indians. Right? They don't have any purpose for even being a male. Like, what do you do with people like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you do? You know? Oh, fancy pants, Rich McGee over here. Can we possibly, like, pocket this ball now, by chance? There we go. Finally. Man, listen. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to sneak by or not. Nope. And I scratched. And I made it. And it doesn't matter because he still wins because I fucking scratched. Piece of shit. Look at this. He's shooting from the corner. Brad, listen. This is an actual Indian, I'm telling you. This is not an AI. Listen, these motherfuckers got the Amazon AI over this bitch. They got the Amazon AI on this motherfucker. I'm telling you, bro. Like, real shit. 100%. You go and look this up. Like, you like to play pool? Listen, come play pool. If I can get paid for it at YouTube. Right? Wait, did I knock in the wrong fucking ball? I might have. I'm fucking dumb. I'm not even paying attention. Yep, knocked in the wrong ball. I'm stupid. Let's see if anybody else has entered the fucking chat. I'd check out the bars. Word? Good luck, man. Listen, let me, bro, listen, hang on. Man, listen. You. Watch this. Bro, listen, I gotta like, listen, you're in my fucking chat. I gotta give you a wrench. There we go. All right. There you go. Now you got a wrench, buddy. Listen, everybody gets a wrench in my chat. This is a wrench, no state. What are you doing? Oh, man, listen, it's my turn? Okay, cool. Like, fancy pants, Rich McGee over here. But I've been watching a lot of YouTube shorts here recently. I need to stop doing this. Shit's rotting my fucking brain. It's on some TikTok shit, rotting my motherfucking brain and whatnot, bro. Like, real shit. Chat. Like, all this shit, bro, like, literally, like, it's not evil. They're not fucking terrible, right? They're actually probably, like, really good in, like, the long-term sense of the thing, right? They all, like, they're doing what, you know what I mean, like, human beings have done. Fucking bullshit. Knock the 8-ball in. Again. Like, yo. Swear to God. Listen, I'm soon gonna make a fucking pork steak because I'm getting mad, bro. Listen, I'm not even getting mad. Listen, just I don't like losing on stream. It's not positive, bro. Like, real shit. Come over here a little bit. All right, there we go. Fancy pants, Rich McGee over here. Yeah, so because I was sitting here and I was listening to this Jimmy Dore thing, right? You know what I mean? And it was like super duper interesting because, like, you know, it's Jimmy Dore, right? You know what I mean? And I'll tell you what, you guys want to listen to some shit with me, man? Listen, let's listen to some shit real quick, bro. Like, real talk. Hold up. Hang on a minute. Okay. What the fuck are we doing? YouTube. There we go. YouTube. Don't pay attention like any little kid shit. My kids been using my fucking shit. It's aggravating me. What are we putting in? Who's that guy? Man, listen. Eric Weinstein. Ego. listen, that's way too long. Hold up. About to get this. Hang on. Media is lying to all of us. That's not the one. That's not the one. That's not the one. I wanted to do some shit on this shit anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to, like, react to this or some shit. You know what I mean? But, like, modern school systems. Because, like, yo, he made, like, a really good fucking point about it. He got this shit super duper on the ball. Eric Weinstein, space, boomers. There we go.
I think we're getting to the point that normal porn has gotten really sick. That if you're not a prude about eroticism, some of the things that you're seeing pushed have to do with the fact that our brains are now habituated to all sorts of things that you probably would never have seen visually unless you were like Genghis Khan, right? Because everything's on demand. And so the search for novelty, I think, is taking, in some cases, quite a dark turn, even for people who are pretty okay with the idea of pornography and eroticism as being an important part of an adult diet for the mind.
Where it worries me as kids, for sure. And I'm maybe even less worried about today than I am in 15 years when you have VR that is bordering on photorealistic, and that's where...
Photoshop whoever you want in, choose your own experience. That's very disturbing. But I'll be honest, I'm more concerned right now about people finding partners to have children with. I think that this is an economic epidemic that we don't feel comfortable talking about. And
why aren't people comfortable talking about?
Well, because, for example, if you have a fair idea that you're at risk for not having the family thing work out, like it's gotten a little late in the day and you don't see a lot of prospects lined up and you've had a few relationships that haven't ended in commitment and resources and children, and the economy doesn't seem to want to come up with a 30-year plan to fit a mortgage and getting some kids through college. I think that the transition from the previous world has been pretty brutal, and a lot of people don't want to say, yeah, I really want a family, and if it doesn't work out, it's going to be a major hit to my life and my sense of myself. And we need, in part, I think that a lot of us don't want to see young women forced onto the apps, which seems like it turns life into this ever-present.
Why is it, listen, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I get really tired of, like, everybody going, like, yo, it's a young women. We don't want to have to see young women, all this fucking dumb shit. But they're like, yo, what about the dudes? What about the dudes? Legitimately, right? Like, it goes both ways. This is not like a one-way street. This goes both ways. And I mean, I think, like, that's literally part of the issue is that, like, we never have a conversation about what's good for, like, young men. We only have a conversation about what's good for young women. But, bro, I don't know.
As dating perspective?
Yeah, like it's just, somebody said, this is the singles bar in my pocket. And wherever I'm bored, I just go to the singles bar and start swiping. And I thought, okay, and how do you feel about it? So, well, in the aggregate, I feel pretty terrible about that. But I can't stop. And so now you've commodified all of this stuff. And I don't think it's a good deal for young women at all. I think that, young women have been used to putting men through their paces and demanding a lot. And, saying, jump this high and seeing who can clear the bar. And when that power is not present, and when men can't win...
Wait. You listen, Brad, look, I'll be honest with you. Okay, this isn't the part of the interview I wanted to kind of watch, right? It's a little later on in this shit, right? It's about like 5 or 10 minutes in, where it gets really super interesting. But like, I'm gonna talk about this because this is fucking really important, right? So like, it's the problem is, right? In the end of the day, is that you're like putting you're putting shiny trinkets in front of them, right? Instead of standing here going like, yo, look, like here's a good solid dude who earns money, right? What you're doing is you're putting a dude in front of them and going like, you can have money or you can have pretty, right? And they go, ooh, pretty. I like pretty, right? Because like literally it doesn't matter if like something's of higher quality, really, in the end of the day. What matters is does it look good, right? That's the issue in the end of the day, right? Like women will buy shit that's super cheap because it looks better, right? Even though like if they bought the more expensive one, it would last longer. Nobody's talking about this. And this is like a whole premise of mine that I have a problem with, right? Where like we're not having that conversation as a whole, or we're not going, like fucking, we need, you know what I mean, like to have durability in our system, right? And like we don't have any durability built in, right? It's just not durable. It's super like adaptable, but it's like not, and even then that's a stretch. You know what I mean? Like it's very, very like made for, just massive amounts of speed and profit. And, like has a lot of like shit to it. It's very, very complicated, right? But it's not very durable. And none of this shit is super durable. Let's keep going.
These competitions, and have those competitions really mean something, we derange as a society, because society is about continuity, and continuity is about babies. So no matter what you want to do, you can take it away from babies. I remember I was talking to a young woman who was like 26 or something, and she asked me if I had kids, and I said yes. And I said, do you have kids? And she like practically spit out her beer, like, what? And I thought, do you think it's really a crazy question that I would ask a 26-year-old woman if she had kids? And then, she thought about it. It just felt very remote. And this is the economy that we're bequeathing to people. And my belief is that if the median individual cannot count on being able to, have a home in a reasonable city that has lots of jobs, so that if one job doesn't work, they can switch, and one person can stay home, doesn't have to be the dad, doesn't have to be a mom and a dad, any pair, but you need somebody with the freedom to stay home to raise children while somebody else can be counted upon to go be the breadwinner in an economy that isn't, absolutely razor's edge. This is nuts. And, it was driven home to me recently, and my father turned 85. We were at a party for his friends, and some of their closest friends lived in our neighborhood when I was growing up. They were saying, oh, yes, when we moved in all those years ago, there were 14 boys who used to play on the street, and now there are none.
Whoa.
And I said, what do you mean there are none? She said, well, young families can't afford to live on the street. And I said, do you have any thought in your mind that that was a catastrophe that happened to your street? And that maybe your generation had some responsibility? This is the silent generation, so before the baby. Had something to do to say, hey, maybe this is not good for society if young families. She said, well, these homes are perfect for families. And I said, but you just told me that there are no families on your street. So this is an epidemic, and this is deranging us, and this is a lot of what's behind this kind of sense of injustice and people trying to find groups, I think, to take care of, because you have got a lot of maternal instincts that are not grounding in happy, hopeful homes, raising kids.
That's really interesting. What do you think is the sort of key driver? Is this student loans? Is it the average salary isn't going up? And part of what drives my question is I know what I pay. So my previous company, I had at one point 3,000 employees, about 1,500 full time, and then another 1,500.
Yo, listen. First off, this dude who looks like my man from Jackass, Johnny Knoxville. This Johnny Knoxville knockoff right here, right? Like, yo, this guy's annoying. I'm gonna keep it 100. All right, he's annoying as fuck. But like, listen, this is, like a really good conversation that Weinstein's having.
Part-time. Here I have 20 plus employees full-time, and then another, 7 or 8 part-time. And I know what I pay them, and it's a good wage. It's a hell of a lot more than I was making at their age. That's probably the easiest way to say it.
Okay.
Yeah, but the problem is, dude, is that like everything is so goddamn expensive that it's almost impossible to fucking live. Right? That's the issue. right? In the end of the day, like it just, you can't afford a car, you can't afford a house, you can't afford like a fucking family, like the money that we made back in the day, like literally, I'll be honest with you, like I was 18 and like I had a wife, a child, an apartment, 2 cars. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a nice apartment, but I had all these things and I was able to pay for them with, working at, like a fucking warehouse as an order selector. Granted, I was working 15 hours a fucking day. I was going hard 6 days a week. I'm not going to lie. It was not an easy thing, right? But like, it 100% could be done on a regular person's salary. And that can't be done anymore. It just fucking can't.
So where is it that just the way that we are and what we pay is not indicative of what other companies pay? Is it something else?
Well, this is just going to be really kind of brutal. First of all, we're in an orchard with lots of low-hanging scientific fruit where you could take the scientific fruit and turn it into technology in short order. We're still making scientific advances, but most of those that are even fairly profound are not instantly convertible into technology. So there might be low-hanging fruit in a new orchard, but we haven't found the new orchard, so we're picking fruit that has a very different characteristic. So that's the first part, is that our pipeline got screwed up.
But how does that really play out in like dollars and cents? So I'm thinking of this street, right? It's the perfect analogy. So you have a street, the houses have a price to buy, they have a price to rent. So when I think about, okay, what is stopping somebody from either buying or renting? So if the prices are too high.
Prices are too high.
So then is it that the prices are artificially too high because we have a bunch of empty houses and people who are buying as an investment and they're just being stupid?
So you're fairly familiar with my theories and acronyms and things. So you've probably heard about the embedded growth obligation, the ego.
But what I get that, and that scares me, and I totally buy into it. What I don't, and for anybody listening, and tell me if I fuck this up, but like basically we have a system that's entirely predicated on continued growth, and that growth slowed down starting in the 70s or 80s, and we've done a lot of bullshit shell games to make it seem like we're growing. And the one that when you give, I'm always freaked the fuck out by, is the essentially Ponzi scheme of education. Where higher education, you're teaching people to be professors, but there's only going to be so many professors, or to law firms, only going to be so many partners. So it's like
every graph tells the same story.
So, but what I don't understand is if that's been the same since the 70s, like I didn't even graduate high school until the mid-90s, and this has nothing ever seen. I mean, look, there were times I couldn't quite pay my bills. There were times where, I was sharing an apartment with a bunch of people, but it's like it never felt like the system had broken in some impossible way. And this isn't me saying that it isn't broken. This is me just saying I want to really understand like where we've gone wrong.
Well, so this is what I say to my friends in San Francisco. So they've got good jobs, they're programmers, they're having a blast, they're going to Tulum and, traveling to Bali and all these things. And so I say, you're living in a group house. What do you think about buying your own home and asking that gal you've been going out with for a couple of years to get married? And like the conversation just gets really weird. Well, I'm not so confident that I can commit to a 30-year mortgage, and prices are insane, and I'm not positive that she's the right one for me, and all these things. Or if I talk to my female friends, they have a set of different stories, which is like, I'm so tired of little boys who never grow up.
Is this a psychological malaise? Like, because that explanation I can understand.
We're not excited about low variance futures needed for children as we see.
Because we don't see things popping off. Like, this isn't Beijing in 2006 where it's just like the sky's the limit, or?
Well, I think people have a pretty strong sense. Well, like I hired a millennial who I'm very good friends with. And I noticed that he was like not that committed to certain kinds of projects. He would work hard, but he also had a very clear sense of, my obligation ends at this point. I said, well,
I know this person. I think they work here.
Okay.
Keep going.
And I said, well, why do we have a difference in a sense of work ethic? And he said, oh, because my generation watched your generation get screwed by the baby boomers, and we're not falling for it.
Do you buy that?
Yeah.
That sounds like bullshit to me.
Oh.
And when I say I am happy to be convinced, what I want is the fucking truth.
Y'all listen, bro. Look at this guy. He said it sounds like bullshit to me. Like, it's not bullshit, man. Like, you know, like, I'm here to earn a paycheck, right? I don't care about your fucking company. It's not my company. Now, if you want to start talking about paying me stock options, we'll have that conversation, right? In the end of the day, right? You want to start talking about ownership stake? We'll start talking about me working over, motherfucker, and giving you free labor, right? But I'm not giving you free labor so you can grow your shit so that what? When I go, hey, I need a raise, you know what I mean? Or like, hey, I'm not making enough. I can't really demand you give me more money because you can go and hire somebody else, you know what I mean? With, either A, my skill set or, two of me, right? For half my fucking wage. You know what I mean? From fucking some Bangladeshi place or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? Right? And this is the fucking problem. In the end of the day, we can't have that conversation. Let's keep going.
Truth, dude.
All right,
because
dude.
I have no interest
Let's get to the truth.
Let's get to the truth. Because I have a psychotic work ethic. Why? Because I didn't used to, and my entire life changed when I changed my work ethic.
But look, you're talking. It sounds to me like you're talking about founding companies.
I've done both. I've been an employee and I've founded companies. So I've played both sides of the fence.
And how did the employee? Well, look, I don't want to over-index on. I mean, because there are particular lawyers in particular law firms who aren't founding anything who are doing just fine, but it's a minority position. And what I believe is that we are in a situation in which we are not excited by the future, and the people who are real stakeholders in the system have in general been very focused on making sure that the pyramid is always supplied. So this idea, for example, of you have to go to college, the debt has to become non-dischargeable in bankruptcy, we get to load up the universities with administrators, all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the main one, which is really bizarre, which is there's the secret weapon. And the secret weapon is immigration. And the great part about immigration as a invidious tool for one generation to screw another generation with is that if you call it out, there's only one explanation for why you would fight having other people added to the bottom of a pyramid scheme, which is you must be a xenophobe or probably a racist. And the answer is no, I'm really just trying to choke your supply of new virgins to add to this pyramid scheme so that you can continue to transfuse yourself.
Yeah, that's interesting. So let me see if I can steelman this quickly. This is the one time in my life where I am the one that has a hard out in 5 minutes. I'm so fucking horrified. This is so interesting to me. So I'll try to do it quickly. Okay, so we have a pyramid scheme in that there are only so many jobs, and I'll even abstract it from being a lawyer, which is very easy to understand. There's only so many people make partner. Being a teacher, it's easy to understand. You can only create so many other teachers. And obviously, we're talking at higher education. And I'll just say your normal job. And I've told my employees this. Like, look, every step you go up, there's fewer available positions until you get to the CEO, and there's only one. So there's only you can get promotion. I've never thought of there being sort of money does not strike me as the finite resource. The promotion strikes me as the finite resource. You can keep making more and more money depending on the health of the company and your contributions to it. So that's part of my bias, is that when I try to use just first principles, I'm like, if this person is that valuable to me, I'm going to fucking pay them because I have fear of loss. I don't want to lose them. So, which is why I default to create fear of loss in your employer if you want more money, but the company has to be doing well. So
But the bitch is, so, okay, let's say, I'll make it easy for where I live, right? Let's say you live in Philadelphia, right? You know what I mean? Right? I don't live in Philadelphia, but I've been offered jobs in Philadelphia, right? And this is back when I was in logistics. And they're like, listen, we'll give you $50,000 a year to come down here. And I'm like, bro, I'm doing 42 right now and I'm struggling, right? I'm like, I'm going to need 90. Right, you want me to come to Philly? We're probably talking 140, right? You know what I mean? And there's nobody who has that much fear of loss. You know what I mean? They like you. They like how you work, but nobody's gonna give you what you're actually worth. You know what I mean? This is the fucking problem. It's listen, what do you need to survive in, you know what I mean, like any real city, you know what I mean, say Chicago, say LA, say New York, say Atlanta, say Austin, right? Whatever it is, right? Washington, right? What do you need to survive inside of that city and not struggle? You know what I mean? We're like, you're okay. You know what I mean? Like your bills are paid every month and you're saving some money. What do you need? Math-wise, say it's what, $4,000 a month for rent, right? So you want that to be a quarter of your income. That's $16,000 a month. 16,000 times 12 times 10 is 160. Times 12 is shit. 190, 192, 192,000 after taxes. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, listen, you know, because like, you know, right? I mean, again, you take it 52 times 4, right? You know, you want to make it a quarter of your money, quarter of your income every week. You want to make $4,000, right? This is before taxes, right? So let's say, you know, what? 4 times 52 is what? 208,000? Math. Who's making $208,000? You know what I mean? This is just to live in any of these cities on your own, right? Have a female and a kid, right? You know what I mean? That's what you need. That's where we are right now. And you cannot create that type of fear of loss in an employer. This is the problem.
Let me stick to the Ponzi scheme here. So, very interesting take on immigration. So you have people coming into the system. They're willing to work cheaper than the other people would otherwise work in the system.
You got to be careful about that, but keep going.
It's interesting. I'm trying to represent your position.
No. But what I'm trying to say is that really the biggest issue is push out the labor supply curve.
You say that another way.
Your wage is your price.
Yep. And I bring people from foreign countries to make sure you can't compete because they'll do it for cheap. Yes?
No, it's not even that. I mean, maybe the idea is that you're a superior source of labor.
Who's you?
Whoever you are, you're the domestic. Let's assume that you're a worker inside of the U.S.
Yep.
The big play, in some sense, of the previous generations, the silent generation, and more importantly, the baby boomers, was internationalism, which they called globalization. And the hidden part of globalization that wasn't the United Colors of Benetton was the idea if we can just break our dependence on each other and look abroad and tell a beautiful story about what we're going to do for Africa and Asia, then the idea is that we can continue to grow our slice of the pie even though the pie might not be growing at the same rate. Because from my perspective, as a silent generation or baby boomer, I'm focused on a slice, not the pie. And so there was a huge amount of value gotten from tricking people into thinking that globalization was this beautiful Davos-inspired kind of philanthropy that was going to be a rising tide to raise all boats. And those Americans who had rights inside of our system, and this goes for Brits who had British rights and French who had French rights, whatever, had a right that was valuable, which is I have asymmetric access to my labor market. And that's how we worked as a nation. So now you start the world's greatest PR campaign, which is patriotism doesn't exist. It's only nationalism. And of course, nationalism is really ultranationalism, which is jingoism, which is a precursor to Nazism. So you start saying, you know, I kind of believe in citizenship and patriotism, and now you're telling me that I'm a bad person. And now you've got the Davos crowd talking about financial inclusion in Africa and Asia, and you notice that they're not really that interested in Michigan or Alabama. And
Tell me why they're not, because I felt like I understood it until you told me that I was getting it wrong.
Because the amount of value, you see, if I had to purchase your rights, and I wrote a paper
to what?
Well, your asymmetric access to your labor market. Okay. I wrote a paper called "Migration for the Benefit of All," published in the International Journal of Labor. I forget what the title is. Migration for the Benefit of All, which said if you pay people for their rights, like if the baby boomers in silence said, "Look, we think we can get better labor outside, and we want to pay you for the right to shop elsewhere," then the idea is that everybody would have been better off and we would have all screamed kumbaya at each other as we got rich together. But instead what they said is you're a protectionist and a jingoist and a xenophobe. We loaded them up with as much negative imagery as we could you're just a bad person.
And they're doing that, though, so they can get cheaper labor, right? So they can keep you from having leverage.
But you keep
the
saying it as
employee.
we're willing to work below. But my point is that if this coffee mug costs $10, and now we have 10,000 coffee mugs, it's not that those coffee mugs are willing to be bought for less. The entire cost of coffee mugs plummets. It's just pushing out the supply curve on labor and wages its price. So it behaves much as supply and demand should. Now, you can then point out, you can make lots of other arguments like, well, some of these people are starting business and people are not coffee mugs, and these are the most vibrant members of our, so you cue Stars and Stripes forever, you put your right hand over your heart. But the key point is that all of these arguments were necessary to keep the institutional structure going as the Ponzi scheme ran out. And a lot of this has to do with what I've called fake growth, downsizing, offshoring, immigration, securitization. It's just this mind-numbing parade of different techniques that these older generations have used to keep a system afloat that has been saying, we're exhausted. Like the law firms are supposed to fail, the universities are supposed to fail. All sorts, the newspapers don't make sense as a business model. And things that you're creating, and that we all might create, would be replacing these things. But instead what we've done is we've come up with an exotic kind of economic parabiosis where we're going to transfuse our fellow Americans and the younger generations to pay for a group of people who are just far too expensive to keep living in the style to which they have unjustly become accustomed. So I'm sorry about your hard stop, but I think that there's a tremendous amount.
Yo, listen, bro, I want to hear that shit again. Hang on, man. Hold up, bro. Listen.
Mind-numbing parade of different techniques that these older generations have used to keep a system afloat that has been saying, we're exhausted. Like the law firms are supposed to fail, the universities are supposed to fail. All sorts, the newspapers don't make sense as a business model. And things that you're creating, and that we all might create, would be replacing these things. But instead what we've done is we've come up with an exotic kind of economic parabiosis where we're going to transfuse our fellow Americans and the younger generations to pay for a group of people who are just far too expensive to keep living in the style to which they have unjustly become accustomed. So I'm sorry about your hard stop, but I think that there's a tremendous amount to be excited about and enthusiastic about, because in essence, getting back to your original point, you're right about the Matrix. For 50 years, we've been in a constellation of ideas, suppressing the really interesting new ideas and calling names on anybody who would propose ideas that would point out the unstable nature of our market democracy. And right now what we're doing is we're living through the beginning of a global, low-grade revolution of a type that we've never seen before.
Yeah, man, listen, yo, look at that motherfucker, bro, legit. Yo, listen, like, you know what I mean? Like, bro, like, I'll be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like, that motherfucker shit is super goddamn brilliant, right? And I 100% agree with him, right? And this is kind of important, right? You know what I mean? Listen, like, you want to hear Tim Dillon's
Most
new shit, bro?
of these
Tim Dillon's new shit's fucking...
What do you guys, you seem like a young guy. You young, how old are you? 24, what do you do with your life, 24? What's up?
Let's check his
Aryan new dad. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tim Dillon Show.
Like, listen, this shit was cool.
Recording minutes, maybe hours after Trump convicted on all 34 counts of falsifying business records in the hush money trial with Stormy Daniels, the porn star that Trump was plowing, and he paid off this woman with some dirty money. And this has been the trial that he's been going through. I, full disclosure, live a few blocks away. I have a home a few blocks away from I don't live there. I don't live anywhere. So I'm going to say that immediately, because that people always say to me, they go, where do you live? It's like, what is that? What is that? It's like a crazy question. People go, where do you live? I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring it out. But Trump, I have a condo that I occasionally go to a few blocks away from the courthouse where they delivered this conviction, which was not a huge surprise because it is New York. And Trump was probably guilty. I don't think anyone imagines that he wasn't guilty. I think here's why people are upset about this, and here's why I think ultimately this helps Trump. This is my analysis. Most people know Trump's kind of a criminal. He's been open about it. That's kind of why people like him. He goes, I game the system. I'm rich. I get away with shit. I do what I want. I pay people off. He said that. He came out and said it. He's like, I pay people off. I play the game. That was very refreshing. Dave Chappelle did that monologue on SNL talking about how groundbreaking it was that Donald Trump came out and was like, hey, yeah, you know why I know how corrupt everything is? Because I'm the guy. I'm one of those people who's been doing it for years. I get it. So I don't think there's anyone out there that's like, would Trump have paid off a porn star? Would he have done that? Would Trump have? I think everyone knows that. I don't think anyone cares. I don't care. I think paying people off's fine, to be honest, to shut up. I don't think that's a big problem, morally. Of all the ways you could get someone to shut up, you have killing them, threatening them, blackmailing them, paying them off is by far the best way to get them to shut up. It is by far the least of all the things in our political system. I mean, the three dudes at Boeing who were like, hey, maybe there's a crack in the goodbye, they're all gone. How nice would it have been if they just got hush money? It's not.
Yo, that's fucking brilliant, yo, legit. There's three dudes at Boeing. Hey, maybe there's a crack in it. Goodbye. Yo, that's fucking brilliant, bro. Real shit. Yo, that's so fucking hilarious.
Not even that, no one's horrified that someone paid somebody else off to shut up. I think people don't like the idea that in an incredibly corrupt system where you have almost everyone that you are aware of in the political sphere in this country is some kind of criminal. Everybody is some kind of criminal. It's why they are there. We all know that. It's why they got elected in the first place.
Shit, bro, a real shit. Hold up. Let me see where my microphone's at, bro. Hang on. Let's turn this up here. Hang on, bro. I gotta do some stuff. Hang on a second. Give me 1 second. I'll turn my mic up on the motherfucking. Yo, it's weird. I gotta open up Audacity. Turn my mic up. It's fucking dumb. Okay. Where's my mic at? Man, listen, you should be hearing me fine at this point. Yeah, I'm good. Okay. All right. So, all right, you can get fucked and go away. Okay, there we go. Okay. Now, back to what we were doing. My shit's still up. All right, yeah, my shit's still up. Okay, cool. Listen, hold up. Listen. Yo, hold up. Y'all gonna love this.
Yes, absolutely.
Airbnb is really disrupting real estate. And I know a lot about real estate. I just did a little fake business. Now, you know that I do this. A lot of the audience don't know that I do. I do fake business. I call up realtors all day when I'm bored, and I pretend I'm a realtor and that my client is very interested in their property, and I asked them lots of questions about their property. I just did it with a commercial property on Palm Canyon Drive. I said, hey, this is Tim. I have a client of investor that's really interested in the property. What are we looking at per square foot, and what are some of the local restrictions we should know about? And, these whole things, they go into this whole thing. They go, well, they don't want a coffee shop in there because Starbucks, there's a competing business clause, so Starbucks doesn't want a coffee shop. This is how the corporate takeover of America is, by the way, because when Starbucks moves into an area, they go, yeah, we don't want some independent coffee shop opening. Not all areas, but a lot of them. We don't need somebody slinging lattes for less than we are. So the guy goes, well, there's a Sprint store, so we can't do a competing business, blah, blah, blah. And we talked about it. There's a lot of parking behind. I said, thank you. I said, I have an investor, but he's very concerned about, the competing business clause and everything like that. And I was on the phone with this guy for about 10 minutes. And he said to me, oh, Tim, that's cruel. Their time has value. No, it doesn't. And I will continue to do fake business because I like doing fake business. It's one of my favorite things to do. I like to call people and I like to lie about who I am and what I do. And then I like to see how they conduct business because on their end, they're conducting real business. I'm conducting fake business. Now, never the two shall meet. We've gotten to the point where one of my clients who doesn't exist was almost going to put an offer on a house. This was last week. I've been on the phone with this realtor for like 45 minutes, 3 times in a row. I've had to block her finally. She doesn't know what happened. Sometimes I have to block the people because fake business gets very intense. Fake business, people start drawing up contracts. I mean, she was calling appraisers. She was going to have inspections done. I was representing a very motivated overseas client. Now, sadly, that client died of coronavirus before we could go see the property. That's not my fault. And I tried to explain that to her, but she was kind of confused and started saying, oh, this, blah, blah, blah. Are you real? Is this real? Cops, FBI, whatever, blah, 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 blocked. I'm helping train these professionals. Do you understand? Yes or yes? By calling them, people need practice. So this schmuck over there on Palm Canyon, I did use my real name, by the way. Like, this is Tim Dillon. And sometimes I make up a firm name. Sometimes I use a real firm name. Sometimes I just say, this is Tim Dillon with Futures. He goes, what? And I go, Futures Investment? He goes, okay. You just go, okay. You go, yeah, all right. I go, yeah, you got a commercial listing on Palm Canyon on the corner. I'm wondering what we're looking at price per square foot. What's the parking in the area like? What's the competing business clause? Any local restrictions we should know about? I have a team of investors that are looking to expand into this area. Many of them, sometimes it's a franchise, sometimes not. But I'm just, it's an investment group. They're very interested. They love the visibility of the location. Oh, he goes, it's a great location. So they love the visibility of the location. And see, right there, we're beginning to do fake business. Because then he goes to his wife and he goes, hey, I just got a call from a guy that may be interested in this. And then he tells his secretary, and then he tells his partner. So I'm in, and I'll give him a follow-up call later tonight. I'll have 10 more bullet point questions before I bring my investors. And I do this. Now, a lot of people, I was explaining to someone at dinner that I do this. And he goes, it's horrible. I said, why? I'm doing fake business. They go, why? I said, I like doing it. Because I don't have a real estate license and I can't do real business, but I at least can do fake business. They said, that's pretty sick. I said, maybe you're sick because I want realtors to get the best professional. You golf a lot, right? Mm-hmm. When you golf every day, are you better at it?
Yes, absolutely.
Now that doesn't even that includes going to a driving range.
Sure.
Right. Correct.
Right.
Sometimes I see golfers swing clubs in their backyard.
Mm-hmm. Helps.
Doesn't matter if it's real or fake. What matters is that this guy's going through the next guy to call him might be real. But I'm going to beat that guy out. I'm going to do a competitive offer because I conduct fake business well. And many people don't. A lot of people do things. People go on fake diets. I've done a ton of them. People do all kinds of things that aren't real. People are fake comedians. They pretend to be a comedian for a decade and impoverish themselves and live on a floor and walk dogs. Fine. That's all. When you go home to your family for Thanksgiving and you go, I'm a comedian, they're eating and they're like, no, you're not. You're a pretend comedian. You're a fake comedian. Right. I am a fake real estate investor and I will continue to do fake business. So if you get a call from a guy that sounds like me, just be forewarned, the deal's not closing. The deal's not closing. I have an interest in presenting myself. I have a lot of clients when I do fake business. They're very busy. Many of them are overseas. They cannot handle. I mean, we should probably get the phone, do a little fake business right now. Maybe we get our phone. Can you get the phone? Let's do a little fake business. Because I don't think people understand what I bring to the table and how good I really am. Do you have is that my phone? Yeah. Let me call this guy back. How do we get him in the Roadcaster? Is he in the Roadcaster? Yeah, we'll get him in.
Hello?
Hey, Adam, Tim Dillon, how are you? We spoke about the property on Palm Canyon a few minutes ago.
Damn, it's sunk 8 ball.
Yeah, hey Tim, how's it going?
Good, buddy. How are you? I wanted to know if there's a list of the competing clause. My client's asking me if there's a list of businesses, whether it's Starbucks, Sprint, things like that, that we could kind of figure out what the restrictions are, just so I could kind of email that to them, because he wants to show it to his investors, if that's possible. Also, is there a way they can get out to see the property maybe later in the week?
Yeah, I live about 4 minutes from it, so not too difficult. I will just go to the center right now and send you a quick list of all of the businesses that are in there already.
I would appreciate that. Let me ask you a question too. How long has this property been on the market? I haven't looked it up yet.
Yeah, I've been marketing it for maybe, I just signed it like right when COVID hit, and then I delayed it for like 2 or 3 months. So I'd say maybe like 2 or 3 months now. Okay,
and before you had it, was it sitting there for a while or no? They always like to know these things.
Yeah, I know Banner Mattress was there up until recently.
Okay.
I know there's a mattress firm like right across the street.
Yeah, I saw that. Would this be a 5-year lease, or what are they looking for in terms of commitment?
Yeah, it really just depends on the tenant and the rate and things like that. Obviously, the longer the commitment, the better we can do on the rate. I think they're open right now.
Okay, and I imagine they're
5 years.
I imagine they're open to some form of negotiation given the climate.
Of course.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that.
We're here to do deals.
Yeah, me too. But me too. It's a little wild out there, Are you guys mainly commercial? Or you do any residential?
I do a bit of both.
Okay, good. Yeah,
you got to be kind of a generalist out here. So.
I agree. Yeah, a lot of people are starting to get interested in this area, and I think it's because LA's had a lot of problems. And a lot of my clients, I do business primarily in Los Angeles, and a lot of people are starting to look at this area, and a lot of them are excited about maybe jumping into something here, because the high season, I imagine it's January through June.
January through April is our high season,
right?
But pretty much like right now, like September through April. So we kind of have like a shoulder mid-season, which is September through December,
right?
And then January through April just crushes, and then Coachella is obviously in Stagecoach in April, and that kind of, then we have Memorial Day weekend, July 4th, even during the summer, we do pretty well.
Of course, I appreciate that. Well, listen, I have your website. I'm going to shoot you an email. Just again, introducing myself. And then if you could just get me a list of some of those competing business clauses, just so I can show it to them. And hopefully they'll get out to see it sometime next week. They're super interested. One of them lives out here in Rancho, and they pass it all the time. So they had me just kind of reach out to you and see what was going on. But they're pretty motivated. And again, I think it's all about, how restrictive those clauses are.
Yeah, I think they're going to be pretty flexible. So I'll shoot you the businesses.
Yes.
And we'll see if we can do something, okay?
I appreciate it, Adam. Thanks a lot for your time.
All right, thank you.
So it's fake business, and I'm doing it well. Let's be honest. I'm doing it well. I'm protecting the interests of my clients. Am I not? Am I not protecting the interests of my clients when I conduct fake business? My fake clients are important and they need to be protected. I want them to have the maximum amount of freedom in any given situation. You understand? Start doing fake business. It'll change your life. I'm telling
He said fucking fake business. Goddamn, bro. Like, listen, I'm over here fucking crying. This shit fucking hilarious. All right. What the fuck am I? Fucking stripes. Yo, go look for the fucking advice in the chat, buddy. It's appreciated. Oh, man, listen. Shit. Oh. Yeah, listen, it's just, it's fucking, I don't know, Wednesday morning, some shit like that, Tuesday morning, something, I don't know. It's a morning, one day this week. I don't remember what day it is. I don't know. I took the fucking night off last night because just, I didn't get any fucking sleep. I was supposed to do some shit yesterday during the daytime and I got a whole bunch of stuff done, but, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't get a chance to fucking rest. And that happens sometimes. When you work nights, you don't get any sleep. You're like, all right, bro, listen, I'm going to take a day off today so I can fucking sleep. You know what I mean? Is what it is. And then tomorrow I'll be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and fucking ready to rock and roll and make my motherfucking money and handle my business, right? So, anyway, right, back to the original, fucking point of this whole shit, right? It's literally talking about, why it is that things are the way they are. Yeah, again, it's literally because, managers are a thing, right? You know what I mean? Motherfuckers really don't understand how important what that really is, right? Every time you hear about some crazy shit that's going on, what you should really hear is, oh, the management class, needs to do managing stuff, right? And everybody thinks it's some, terrible, awful shit, but, it's really not. It's just, management doing management things. Because that's what managers do. Managers manage, right? And if they can manage, they think that they're running the system, right? It's like that old, it's like that fucking jump where it's oh man, how long has this guy been, doing whatever he's doing? Oh, he's been here for 30 years. He said fucking good. That guy thinks he's gonna be able to handle this situation because he's been handling everything for 30 fucking years, right? They think that they got this, and they don't want to let it go because, this is what the fuck they were handed, you know what I mean? And everything's about systems. They have, a playbook of what they do, right? You know what I mean? And the only time you're really guessing is when there is somebody in charge. For instance, that's why, they're like, oh, man, listen, are the Fed's going to raise rates? The question is, Jerome Powell going to raise rates, right? Because Jerome Powell's doing what Jerome Powell does. He's running off of Alan Greenspan's motherfucking playbook. Again, from the 1980s. Where Alan Greenspan, what he did was, you know what I'm saying, is he fucking jacked up the fucking rates to, 15 fucking percent for a few years, got some money out of the fucking system, put people under fucking stress, right? Got them out here fucking working, brought in a whole bunch of immigrants and shit. Did I hit the wrong ball? I might have hit the wrong ball because I'm dumb. I'll be real, bro. I'm not paying attention a lot. Right, I'm paying attention to what the fuck I'm saying and not what I'm talking, not what I'm doing. Right? All these people are literally real fart. Right? All these people are literally doing exactly what it is, that they think, they're supposed to do. Right? They're running on systems. Right? They're managers managing shit. Because that's what managers do. They think that everything can be scienced the fuck out. They're there's always an answer to every question. And that's a stupid way to live as a human being. Right? It doesn't really... Bro, I'm telling you, there's an actual Indian playing this fucking game. This is not AI. 100%. It's real shit. So I have watched computers play pool, many, many times. Because, this is something that I kind of do on a regular basis. When I'm really fucking bored, I'll play pool on my fucking phone. Right? Or on the computer. I was playing on the computer, but I'll be honest with you, it crashes all the fucking time. There's I don't know, it's a pool game that I play sometimes, you know what I mean? I forget, but it's 8-ball pool on mini clip, right? And I swear to God, it crashes every time I play on the fucking computer. It just fucking completely collapses. And I don't fucking know why. You know what I mean? I have no idea. Because right now I'm streaming, I'm playing pool on YouTube, you know what I mean? I have a second browser window open, we were just listening to fucking videos and shit, right? So my computer's not dog shit, you know what I mean? This is a half decent fucking computer and shit, right? Anyway. But yeah, You know what I mean? Like managers have systems, right? And this is like they have like things that like they do on, you know what I mean, because like this is what the fuck they were told to do, right? It's like people try to like assume that like the rest of the government isn't like the military, right? But it is, right? Like the military has SOPs, which is standard operating procedures. The government has SOPs, right? You know what I mean? Like everything that government does, it has, you know what I mean, like a process, right? Like everything is done on process. And this is something that we don't like really talk about a whole lot, bro. Listen, I'm gonna try your English thing, right? Hang on a minute. Let me fucking... Yeah, we're gonna try and do this shit. Oh. Okay. Let's try what the fuck you said. I don't know if that was any better. I mean, a little bit, you know what I mean? So, like, listen, I'll try and use it again. Right. But, you know, like, everything is done on procedure. And this is something they were talking about, I think Yarvin was talking about this the other day. He was talking about like fucking like there's a lot of procedure and there's not a lot of room for like having a human being actually making real decisions, right? And this is I don't know if y'all ever heard about like the AI trading bots that they have, right? Where like the AI trading bots, right, are so much better than human beings because like the humans that are actually like trading on the market do about as well as, you know what I'm saying, like a coin flip. It's like they're like 50% like effective. Or the AI trading bots are like, you know, 70, 80, 90%, right? And this is kind of the attitude. It's like, you know, like, listen, we run things off of procedures because like science, you know what I mean? Like if we do this, we know this will happen. At least they think so, right? This is the science of government. I'll be right back. I gotta pee. 1 second. Diabetes sucks. Yeah. Anyway, right. So let's see if I can find some Yarvin. I like this. I like Yarvin. I think it was this one I was watching. Check this out.
Hey everyone, it's Andrew Clavin with this week's interview with Curtis Yarvin. Now you may not know Yarvin. He's a really, really interesting thinker. He used to write under the pseudonym Mencius Moldbug. And I don't know exactly where to place him on the political axis. He's usually referred to as a reactionary right-winger, but some far-left people like him as well. And I've been listening to a lot of the young dissident right on podcasts, just trying to figure out what they're thinking. And we had Jay Burden on, I remember, and almost all of them cite Curtis as an inspiration. He has a Substack called Gray Mirror. He has a book called Unqualified Reservations. And just for those of you just to remind you, the way I do interviews, I bring people on for one reason, which is to find out what they have to say. I'm not here to argue with them or struggle with them. I hope I ask good exploratory questions, but I don't necessarily agree with them, but I'm not going to scream at them. I actually want to hear them. It's different than what you've heard. So Curtis, thank you so much for coming on. It's a real pleasure to meet you. I've been reading a lot of your things and very, very interesting stuff.
Great pleasure to come on, Andrew. I suppose I always struggle with this question of what to call myself, like in a sort of branding sense. Recently, I came up with the phrase radical monarchist, which, the radical has this kind of nice Berkeley kind of sound to it. And then you're like a monarchist, but maybe you're not the kind of monarchist who believes in Queen Elizabeth II and, King Charles III. Maybe more you're the kind of monarchist who believes in Queen Elizabeth I and King
okay.
Henry VIII.
Well, this is what I want to get to, because I listened to these guys.
If you'll let me keep going,
yes, please,
but I
please.
think I think I know where you want me to go. It's like, when we read the past, we're always struck by, I think some historian once said, we understand the Roman Empire and maybe even to some extent the Roman Republic better than anyone who ever lived in the Roman Empire. And that's because whenever you're inside a society, it's in this kind of, what we call in Silicon Valley a reality distortion field. It's inside a little bubble of very deeply unquestioned assumptions. And, one of the reasons to really get into the past is to have an external perspective on that bubble of unquestioned assumptions that we all live inside. And one way to do that is to understand the past well enough that you can get advice from the past. And specifically, that you could actually know what, for example, here's just a random question. Suppose you could put Elizabeth I in a time machine, and she could go back and look at the England of Elizabeth II. What you gonna think? And the thing is, if you can't really, as a person who, I guess we have King Charles III now, but as a person who lived for basically 50 years in the age of Queen Elizabeth II, to answer that question, I would have to have a very good understanding of both Elizabethan eras. That's a good test for how well you can look at your society from the outside.
Okay.
And so, to answer that question really, really briefly, I would say that the answer, the start of the answer is obvious, which is that Queen Elizabeth I, as we all know, is at least to a substantial extent an actual governing monarch. She's actually the Queen of England. She's actually the CEO of the English government, as we would say in the corporate world today. She is to the government of England what Elon Musk is to SpaceX. People might do stuff, does she know where every sparrow falls or every memo flies? No, but she's actually in charge. And maybe you could quibble with that as an Elizabethan historian, and then you really have to go back to Henry VIII, who's really in charge, or maybe even Henry VII. And who's so in charge that he's not even notorious. And so the thing is that what someone who certainly conceived of it as her own responsibility to be in charge would think of someone who nominally had the same job as her, but in fact was basically a crowned Kardashian who only did photo ops and basically, was there for the tourist trade. Right. So I think that, I think there are more things that Elizabeth I would think about Elizabeth II's England, but she would be coming from that initial perspective.
Right.
She would be coming from the initial perspective of, this is crazy. And this woman is extremely deluded. And she actually thinks she's the queen, but she is not the queen. And, then she would look at this and that about England, and she would be like, oh my God.
So that is what when you call yourself a monarchist, you want a governing, powerful monarch.
Yeah. And so, the thing is, why would anyone call themselves a monarchist in the year 2024? Well, if you look around you, I'm looking into some very delicate computer hardware right now. When I opened the box that contained that computer hardware, it said designed by Apple in California, made in China. Now, those are three brand names there: Apple, California, and China. Okay, two of these things are monarchies, and one of them is something else. Apple is a monarchy. Apple is literally run by a single CEO. It's an accountable monarchy. Tim Cook is accountable to the board. Mark Zuckerberg actually is not accountable to the board because he has special magic shares that keep him not accountable. China is a monarchy, and it's run by Xi Jinping, who is, again, accountable to the Chinese Communist Party to some extent. But, is there such a thing as a sort of perfect, ideally absolute monarchy? No. But when we see, quote, constitutional monarchies throughout history, we notice that they very, very quickly degrade into ceremonial monarchies.
Right.
You could argue that basically, for example, in England after the Restoration, the period of Charles II was a period where there was a genuine balance between the monarchical power and the parliament. Obviously, they kicked out James and replaced him with basically a fake king, right? England has had fake kings for 300 years. Japan has had fake emperors for 1,000 years. I don't know how many people know this, but like the emperor of Japan was last in charge of Japan in like the 1100s, 1200s, something like that, right? Since then, it's all been shoguns ruling in the emperor's name.
Tossing and turning all night is a frustrating experience. You can take it from me because that's all I ever do. But there is a way that I found that I can at least get some sleep. When sleep is elusive, it's physically and mentally draining. That's why I love Beam. It's not just your run-of-the-mill sleep aid. It's a concoction carefully crafted to help you slip into the sweet embrace of rest without the grogginess that often accompanies other sleep remedies. Beam Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up. Can I back you up just a second?
Yeah.
When you were talking about the computer, it's made by Apple in California. Is your point there that only two of those entities
Imagine
are functioning?
if the state of California tried to make a computer.
Okay.
Imagine if the state of California tried to make an electric car. Now, they wouldn't actually pretend. There was a time when these projects could be done in... This is not a permanent quality of government, the way libertarians think.
Right.
The Manhattan Project was the most successful and effective engineering project of all time. It was a government project. And when we look at that project, we see that it was run almost exactly like a Silicon Valley startup, right down to having the technical and the non-technical co-founder. So it's really more a diarchy than a monarchy is one thing that sort of Silicon Valley's kind of had this kind of minor variation on the design. But mostly, if you want to get anything actually done in this world, you give it to one person and hold him or her accountable for their results.
But doesn't Silicon Valley produce the ideas that these people then actualize? I mean, in other words,
oh, sure,
all
but
the people living in California. Yeah.
If you go to DC, you'll see a lot of ideas, in and around the government. There is no shortage of ideas in and around the government. But the government, because of the way the administrative state operates, and this is one of the things that I think is most important for people to understand, is the difference between a private corporation and the administrative state, the deep state, whatever you want to call it. Yes, the fact that people can't be fired is an obvious difference in the deep state, but it's so much deeper than that, right? I actually grew up in the deep state. So my dad was a foreign service officer. My mom was a DOE. My stepfather was on the Hill. So I kind of have a certain familial understanding of the way DC operates, and also have a personal understanding of the way Silicon Valley operates because I've been a CEO out here in a small way. So these things are night and day. And so the thing is, when you look at the federal government, there are times in the past when it has worked as a monarchy. FDR, I have a lot of bad things to say about FDR, but like him or not, he was the monarch of America. And if you look at the way the New Deal operated, imagine a world in which Washington is as efficient as a startup. And actually kind of runs like a startup and is kind of young and fresh and full of really talented people and works kind of like Uber. And you'll understand why people develop this immense trust in the deep state, this generational trust. It's like the way people trust Apple or Google, but even more so. It did incredible things. It conquered the world. You have to respect when you look at this monstrous, cancerous blight that is Washington, D.C., you can't forget the fact that 75 years ago, it conquered the frickin' world.
Right.
Right. And so, on the other hand, if basically you gave everyone at Apple a permanent job for 80 years and made it completely unaccountable to market results. I mean, Apple went downhill very quickly without Steve Jobs. And
Right.
like it was a death's door.
But my,
You know,
my
and-
question, though, just to go back for a second,
Sure.
the computer revolution, like many other technical, fracking revolution, came out
Sure.
of the kind of mess of America. It came out of these people.
Sure.
Who were,
So the thing is, when we think of monarchy as a kind of an organizing force, you know, what we see is actually like, you know, if you're looking for a system that is this kind of single unified monarchy where the king tells everyone to do, you're looking at the world of the ancient Incas, right? The Inca civilization was like this. It was just incredibly, unbelievably, absolutely totalitarian. And so what you see in successful systems is that it's like laying tile or something. You have these blocks of monarchy, and then the blocks are competing with each other and holding each other accountable through competitive tensions. Do you remember, you know, the movie The Third Man, of course?
yeah, sure, one of my favorites.
You know that great Orson
All right, so like, listen, we've been like working on this and thinking about this, right? You know what I'm saying? Fucking. We came up with an idea here recently where it's like, I think America needs a pope, right? And it sounds kind of bananas, but you need like a Protestant pope, but you don't need him to be like in charge of the church. What you need is like a fucking like a placeholder, somebody who like literally goes like, hey, look, here's the line, right? And it needs to be a separate pole of power away from the government, right? So that you have somebody who's pulling like the people away from the government, right? And checking the power of the government. And that's what really we're missing in this society, right? That's what Britain has always kind of been missing, right? You know what I'm saying? Right? That's kind of where the mentality is, right? And I think that's what that is, right? I think that's really what we need is a fucking, like a whatchamacallit, a fucking, a pope, right? You know what I mean? Like, you need that third pole of power that's outside of government. And that's like basically part of the society. That makes more sense, right? I think this is what Yarvin's kind of getting into right here. Let's keep going, though.
Orson Welles' speech about Italy and the cuckoo clock. Did you know that Orson Welles actually ad-libbed that speech? It
Yes.
wasn't in the script.
Yeah, I know.
God knows where he came up with it. But, you know, here's this incredible insight. And this insight is running absolutely counter to what everyone believed at the time. Because this is the era of Wendell Willkie, like one world. People really believed in the United Nations. They thought it was going to be like the EU, but for the world at the time that this movie is made, right? And so basically when Orson Welles comes out and like says, like he just says it like he really knows it. I mean, the history is all false. Like all these Swiss kings were fighting each other, right? You know, but when he says this kind of deep truth that's so counter to what everyone believes in that moment, it's just creates this really powerful, you know, moment because everyone in this, you know, in their bones knows that it's true. It's like, it's the fact, you know, what keeps Apple effective. It's a little tough because Apple is kind of a monopoly in some ways. But imagine Apple without Android, right? It would be a lot fatter and happier and basically more on its way toward evolving into something like the Department of Energy. Most people don't know that the Department of Energy is the lineal bureaucratic successor of the Manhattan Project. And it actually evolves into DOE. And so when you look at the federal government, this is the, you know, the point that's really important to note is that the most important difference between Apple and, say, the Department of Energy or the state of California, which is only, in a way, a symbolic difference. Even the fact that it's a monarchy is different. What's important is that Apple operates on what the U.S. military calls mission orders. The idea of mission orders, there's a German name for it, but that doesn't mean the Nazis invented it. The Germans call it Auftragstactic, and it's a military idea, and the idea is that you don't micromanage. It's as simple as that. You have some people who work for you. You've got a mission to accomplish. You've got resources. You're like, okay, you do this, you do that, but you don't tell them how to do it. The captain doesn't tell the lieutenant how to take the hill, just what hill to take. This principle is fundamental to any large organization. It's the principle of basically you don't get to question the mission, but you get to implement the mission however you see fit.
Yo, listen, while I work, right, I've been thinking about this here too, right? Like, listen, Yarvin always makes you think about shit, bro. Like, this is why I really like Yarvin, because, like, he has some, like, really based ass fucking takes about shit. So, like, every once in a while I have to go over to, like, the big carrier's yard, right? Which I work for, like, a small carrier who's, like, a third party people, right? And, you know, you go over to the big carrier's yard and you go into the office to go pick up your, fill out the paperwork to pick up whatever load you're picking up, right? And while you're in there, you hear him on the phone with some driver, and he's like, hey, man, you need to pay attention to what you're doing better, because you rolled through a stop sign last Friday at 4:15 in the morning in Macklehattan, PA. And I'm like, I know exactly where this dude was at. Like, legitimately, that's not even a real fucking stop sign, and no one cares, right? Like, I'm sitting here like, this is why I can't work for these companies, because I'll be honest with you, I've been doing this for 11 years now. I have more than 1 million miles under my fucking belt, and I'll be fucking goddamned if some office worker tells me that, like, I'm not doing what I need to do properly, right? Like, you can eat the fattest part of my dick, right? And that is one of these big parts of this shit where you go like, yeah, I don't care, bro. Like, no, you know what I'm saying? Like, listen, you hired me to do a job. Let me go do this fucking job. Like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. I'm good at this. And it's this way with everything, right? This is why, like, as workers, we're getting to that point where, like, literally, like, as humans, we're in the workforce, you're just like, bro, like, listen, I'm tired of hearing all your stupid SOP nonsense. Like, I don't want to watch your safety video. No, I don't care about your fucking nonsense, bro. Just let me go do the job. I know what I'm doing. Like, I've been doing this a long time. I'm good. I don't need to know your shit. Like, I got this. Believe me. Right? You hired me to do something. Let me go do this thing. Right? It's like literally like, hiring a chef and then going, well, you have to motherfucking make sure that you fucking cook your stuff this way. Like, bro, listen, I'm the chef, dog. Like, this is my job. Like, let me do my shit. Right? Like, let me handle my business. I got this. All right? And this is basically the breakdown of what Yarvin's saying, right? This is the argument between, like, humans and science, right? And you can't science humans. Like, you fucking can't.
Okay, this principle is profoundly alien to the functioning of the U.S. federal government and the civil service in particular. This is why anything that actually needs to get done gets contracted out. Because actually the way the civil service operates is on the basis of process. So if you're in the civil service, basically there's a process, there's literally a law that's, in many cases, that's describing what you're there to do. Let's say you're a vice consul at a, consulate in Santo Domingo, which was my dad's first job back in the 70s in the State Department. Your job is to apply U.S. immigration law. Right. And there's a process for applying U.S. immigration law. That law basically describes what you're doing. You're not like, nobody comes to you and is like, hey, Herb, why don't we pick out 10 guys today who we think would make really good Americans?
Can I interrupt you for a sec? Because there's so much, there's so much coming at me that I really have to parse some of it and just take some of it apart. So I understand, because obviously the first thing that conservatives theoretically are supposed to be worried about is freedom, is people having the freedom to, and the idea, remember that the ideas coming out of an Apple or any company are generated by the profit motive. They want to make money so that they have the freedom to collect this money and keep some substantial amount of it. So they are inspired to do that. All of those.
So do you know that? I think can I anticipate, I think your question. So do you know the concept of the theory of the firm? This is a basic economics concept. And, the idea is like, why is Apple one block? Why don't instead you have a bunch of people basically signing contracts with each other? So in order to implement the functioning that is Apple, why isn't Apple, why doesn't Apple in a libertarian contract oriented world, why do we still even have concepts like employee? Why don't we basically just make deals between individuals and all of those agreements between individuals add up to Apple?
Right.
I used to be a libertarian, so I can speak libertarian pretty good. In fact, this laptop is resting on 3 copies of Murray Rothbard. So the answer again is that basically, and I think this is one thing. It's sort of it's very interesting that historically, we live in an age when to be a conservative is to emphasize freedom over, for example, duty, order, family, responsibility.
Well, I think all those
Freedom
things are
is
necessary for freedom, but yeah.
Yes. Well, yes, exactly. And so in a way, basically, I think that the conception of freedom that kind of goes, back before the American era in the European tradition is that the amount of freedom that is healthy for any person or any system is completely dependent on the nature of that person or system. My 16-year-old daughter, for example, needs a very different level of freedom from my 17-month-old son. So, if you have a child who's a heroin addict and they're 25, they need about as much freedom as an 18-month-old. And so, just as, those are examples just on the individual level. And then what we see is that, again, freedom is in a sense the opposite of contract. So when you sign an employment contract for Apple, you give up all kinds of freedoms for like very, very large parts of your day. You agree to basically be...
Yeah, this is Curtis Yarvin basically saying freedom is stupid. Shut the fuck up. Like, listen, conservatives should not be concerned about freedom. Right? Like, real shit. Freedom is fucking dumb. Like, this is real shit. It's so dumb, right? Legit, like his whole idea. Like, why are you conservative worrying about freedom? What you should be concerned about is family, community, duty, like all these things, right? This is what conservatives do. What are you fucking conserving, right? Like, this is what I always ask conservatives. Like, what are you conserving? They don't have an answer for that because they don't fucking even think about that shit.
Part of this ordered system for getting things done, for making these frankly amazing laptops that could only be done in this structure that is remarkably reminiscent of an army or a plantation or a manorial castle or something very, very antiquated. And then you look at the way the really important things in our world are done, because as libertarian as you can be, you're always going to admit that the jobs, whether you go full Hans Hermann Hoppe and you believe in like private national defense, there is still a job that needs to be done there. Only the dead have seen the end of war, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we agree that the jobs that we assign to government are in general much more important jobs than like making a really sleek laptop that just doesn't crash. Right. And actually making a sleek laptop that doesn't crash is much more important than what most companies do.
So you want the government to be run like a corporation, essentially?
Sure. That's a very, very... But that's a simple thing to say.
Yeah.
But when you imagine what it means, people will pay lip service to that. But the thing is, when people pay lip service to that, they don't understand. It's like saying, let's say I have a Soviet tractor factory, and I say in 1991, and I say the Soviet tractor factory should be run like a corporation. Well, for, 80 years, this tractor factory has been running as a Soviet bureaucracy. So my first question is, Why should I keep any of these people? Why should I keep any of these assets? Why, like...
The only thing that's troubling me here, just as in terms of clarity, is Apple theoretically doesn't have the right to have me arrested. It doesn't have the right to come to my house and say you're worshiping the wrong God. I'm going to set you on fire. Where the king does, kind of, I mean, and that's a tremendous power. And the thing that the founders are always fiddling with is how do we keep that power from getting out of control?
Sure. And the founders are actually fiddling with a couple of founders, I don't think the founders would find our current system to much resemble.
Oh, I think they go nuts. Really. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think they would just be like, what does this have to do with us? Right. And I think that they would have the same reaction as Roman senators from 200 BC looking at the empire in 400 AD. They would just be like, what does this have to do with us? Right. Why do you still call it the Roman Republic? What's up with that? But they were actually struggling, one of the things that, there's a couple of things when people talk about the founders, and I kind of got into this in my infamous debate with Chris Rufo the other day. There's a couple of things to remind ourselves when we talk about the founders. One is that we tend to do this weird thing where we telescope the revolution of the 1770s into the Constitution, which is a phenomenon of the 1780s. And because as you may know, the Constitution is actually the second American republic. You know how the French give their republicist numbers. The first republic is the Articles of Confederation, the Congress of the Confederation.
Yeah, and I was thinking of that as you were speaking before. But
that's right.
But the problems remain the same.
Yeah. That's right. And here's a test for how you think about early American history. When you think about the first republic, other than the history of its army, what do you know about the history of the Articles of Confederation period, bearing in mind that the Congress of the Confederation is lasts about 13 years?
Yeah, they felt that the Constitution did not centralize enough power, basically.
Do you know any of the names of the leaders? Do you know any of the events? Do you know what happened during that period?
Oh, gosh,
it's a complete white spot on your brain. It's like it's been, X-rayed out with a proton knife. You actually don't know anything about it. And the thing is that one of the reasons we don't generally understand that period in terms of, for example, right-left politics in America. But actually, if you go back and read the period like this, it's sort of what snaps into your mind very, very clearly is that by the late 1780s, pretty much everyone everyone responsible in the country, because the mob was really a thing at this time, pretty much everyone in the, responsible in the country thought that this experiment in basically LARPing Greek democracy, LARPing Athenian democracy was not working, and what was needed was something more Roman.
Right.
And of course, they were very, very into the classics at that time. Specifically, as you probably know the background in which, people are like, hey, George Washington, do you want to be the king? And he's like, no. Okay, right. So what the Constitution is a right-wing coup that basically establishes the quasi-monarchy of the Federalist Party. And within the Federalist Party, you have basically the co-founders of the United States government, who are Washington and Hamilton.
But what I want to know, wait, the question that I'm asking, though, is how do you answer the question, or do you care about the question, which is also fair? What are we going to do to limit the powers of the king?
So first of all, there's one of the fundamental kind of errors in terms of pre-democratic political science is that when the problem that you're facing in creating an accountable monarchy is you're actually caught between Scylla and Charybdis, because you need the CEO to not be micromanaged in any way. You need him to actually be the CEO, but you need him to be accountable. If you've hung around in the private sector much, for example, the way they solve this problem at Apple is they have a board of directors. And what's really important about this system, which, by the way, the word president was actually originally a corporate title. before it was a political title. So the founders had some experience with basically the kind of rising sort of corporate form. They knew how to form organizations very, very effectively. So, for example, in the Constitution, which was actually really supposed to be an accountable monarchy of this type, and which did function kind of as a startup under Alexander Hamilton, what was supposed to do this job was the Electoral College. And they didn't realize that politics would basically like blast through the Electoral College as if they'd put an overly weak seal on a nuclear reactor. They really thought that the Electoral College was going to be a bunch of like anonymous, not anonymous, of like, prominent statesmen who would choose basically the candidates for president as if they were like a CEO search firm. So that was basically kind of the start of their design. Of course, like any system that you don't get a chance to test before it's shipped, like the Electoral College just never worked at all. So when you're basically looking at the Constitution sort of in this way, like a software engineer, you're like, oh, I see what they were trying to do here. And, you can also see what they were trying to do because they wrote about it in the Federalist Papers. Now, so they really understood the concept of an executive. They really understood the nature of an executive branch. As I often say, we don't have an executive branch today. We have an administrative branch. It's a completely different thing. And it's run by process set down by the judicial and legislative branches. Really, like, you don't need to steal an election in this country because the president doesn't have any power over the executive branch. And what to do about changing that is one thing, but you think you're electing Queen Elizabeth I out there, but you're actually electing Queen Elizabeth II. And if that's the only thing you learned from me today, I think that's
that's
probably the best.
A fair assertion. I I was going to say that I would be willing to have a monarchy if we have Queen Elizabeth I, but I'm afraid of all those other guys.
Here's the thing, just so sort of
I've got 1 minute, Curtis. So you got to.
To put it in perspective, basically, so I have various gimcrack designs for trying to make a monarchy completely safe. They're a lot too much to go into, here. But the basic question is that human history has run for thousands of years on one of three operating platforms: monarchy, oligarchy, or democracy. What we have here is not a democracy because the people aren't powerful enough to rule it. Very simply, there's no alternatives besides oligarchy and democracy. What you got is an oligarchy. Now, you can say, well, a lot of crazy things can happen in a monarchy. King can go insane. He can get a brain tumor or whatever. Yeah, that's dangerous, But if you look at the record of true monarchies before the age of revolution, you're not seeing Hitler. You're not seeing Stalin. You're seeing some who are good and some are okay. You know what? Pick any one of the Fortune 500 CEOs. They'll probably do fine. You won't start the second Holocaust.
I gotta stop here, but it's really interesting talking to you, Curtis.
Oh shit, man! Listen. So I hope y'all enjoying some of this shit, right? Listen, I'm just gonna drop a whole bunch of knowledge on y'all, right? You know what I mean? Because I feel like it's, helpful, right, as a whole. And I hope you're kind of enjoying what's going on. And as I said, listen, I don't think the answer is the board of directors thing. I literally think you need a fucking American Pope just to pull shit the other fucking way, right? So let's, listen, we're gonna listen to Curtis Yarvin versus Christopher Rufo from last month, right? This is super fucking hilarious.
April 12, 2024. Narrated by Skeptical Waves. Note from the editors, the following essay is part of our dialogue series, conducted via written exchanges, which aims to bring together the best minds to analyze and debate controversial issues in depth. This debate was prompted by a series of critiques from Curtis Yarvin over the past 12 months aimed towards Christopher Rufo and his strategy, the last of which following the recent publication of Rufo's manifesto, The New Right Activism, contained in our 4th print edition, Counter-Revolution, The Coming Storms. Narrator's note. This is an edited written dialogue between Curtis Yarvin and Christopher Rufo. This voice will narrate the writing of Curtis Yarvin.
This voice will narrate the writing of Christopher Rufo.
A conservative is someone who thinks our national story has gone off the rails. The windows are closed, but he feels a terrible bump and clatter under his seat, and a most untrain-like tilt to the passenger carriage. Everything is in slow motion. He cannot avoid the feeling that he is no longer traveling into the future, but plunging, terribly, into some unfathomable ravine. If you are a conservative, whether you have asked yourself this specific question or not, you must have some idea of A, when our country went off the rails, B, how far we are from those rails, and C, what kind of political force would be required to get us back on track. Most conservatives' instinctive answer is probably A, maybe 1963 or so, B, not far, and C, a conventional railway crane,
So, like, listen, I don't know if y'all ever seen my video about the pencil of power, right? It's a really cool video, right, as a whole, you know what I mean? The pencil of power video, right, is fundamental to understanding, like, how things work. So what you got to do is you got to picture, like, a fucking pencil, right, that's like 200 feet tall, right? And if you have it directly on its point, you can have a guy on a ladder that's holding it with one finger, right? It's directly, perpendicular to the ground. Don't take nothing to have that, like shit just work, because like if a pencil's like standing straight up on its edge, or right up on its point. Now, as the pencil starts leaning further and further over, right, as shit gets more and more fucked up, there's a lot of strain. Like, so like when it wobbles a little bit, you can push it back, nudge it back. As it starts really leaning, all of a sudden you got to lift that motherfucker. The amount of power required to put that bitch back up on its point is ridiculous, right? That means like the amount of power. So like think about power in the government. Like what does power in the government mean? It means you have to be able to stand here and make shit work for you, right? You have to stand here and be able to control everything. You have to be able to like put your hand as a government into everything going on, right? That's how much power is required for you to be able to lift that pencil back up on its fucking point. Very interesting idea, right? You know what I'm saying? And by the way, conservatives don't conserve anything. And I love this shit. So let's get into this, bro. This is a great video.
Republican President, House, and Senate, and a Supreme Court majority. No Renos or squishes, please. With this gear and a good engineering team, free from grifters, cowards, climbers, neocons, etc., we can hoist the locomotive back on track, make Washington work for America
hanging
again,
the fuck out,
and
Brad.
keep
Listen, it's
traveling toward our
7:30 in the
real
morning
destiny.
on.
I am not a conservative. I am a radical, monarchist.
It's a day, okay?
I believe there are no rails, and never were any. America has no manifest destiny. Her constitution was not divinely inspired. No special providence was involved in her founding, nor has she discovered any unique principle of human governance. Nor can any theory of historical determinism, whether liberal, Marxist or libertarian, explain, predict or guarantee her future, which, like all future
Joshua, you don't become united by freedom, all right? Freedom means freedom of association. You wouldn't be free, right? What you would do is you would end up like, becoming clan-like again, right? Which is the natural state of humans, right? That's what you should probably be doing, right? You don't get united over freedom. You become more divided because of freedom when you have ultimate freedom, right? But that requires massive amounts of protection, right? And massive amounts of wealth. And then once you have that, everybody becomes like homosexual and your society collapses. See, none of this works, okay? None of this works. The best bet is like literally go like, oh, we have lots of game to hunt. So you settle in an area and then you form a tribe. And then you have a tribe and then that tribe becomes like a clan. Then that clan becomes like a nation. And then that nation goes over with the next door nation, right? That's how, this is just how these things work, man. You know what I'm saying? This is how this stuff operates. Like this is the mentality. You have to understand how all this operates in like a anthropological sense. Let's keep rocking though.
history is a contingent and unwritten blank page in the hands of men only. And while she is indeed plunging into a ravine, every realistic way to save her starts with centralizing all sovereign power in a single person, or at most a small team. This historically normal political structure is the appropriate way to terminate a failed experiment in political science, which appeared to work only because it started off with an amazing population in an empty continent on the threshold of an industrial revolution. Rather, I believe, America is an ordinary country with an ordinary government. Even its form of government, an institutional oligarchy, is historically unusual but is hardly unique. Due to the compounding rise of technology, we are at a unique point in human history, but nothing at all has changed about political science. In fact, Aristotle would understand us better than we understand ourselves. From this standpoint, let me explain my attitude to you and your political work. I believe you're doing something useful, but it is not useful in the way you think or seem to think. It is not useful because it is simply disproportional to the problem. It is useless to pass a law that bans discriminating against white people. For instance, we already have such a law. It is called the Civil Rights Act of 1965. In a nation with maybe 1 million diversity professionals, it is useless to get 11 staffers laid off from the University of Florida, or even to convert a low-grade hippie college into a lower-grade baseball college. Whose bright idea was that? Up close, these must seem like huge and unprecedented achievements, and they are. On the relative scale established by 90 years of increasingly feeble resistance to the real American Constitution, the informal personal monarchy of Franklin Roosevelt, changed by his death into a permanent and unaccountable oligarchy, they are a break in the trend line. But on an absolute scale, they are still nothing. The conservatives, when they feel the bumps under their seats and realize the train is not on rails, feel each bump as a problem to be solved. DEI is a problem to be solved. Mass migration is a problem to be solved. The fentanyl epidemic is a problem to be solved. Yet not only are the conservative solutions wildly, fantastically disproportionate, by orders of magnitude, to these problems, they are not the real problems. They are only symptoms of the real problem, that our country is lost in history. There are no rails. There never were any. But your quixotic, but energetically and even brilliantly conducted, fight against just one of these symptoms, in which even when your sword goes home and sinks to the hilt, you only demonstrate what a pinprick it is to this Brobdingnagian monster, serves a different purpose. You are not defeating the enemy. You are only revealing it, showing everyone that the monster is real, and brave and capable men can fight it. Let us learn to fight it well, and let us learn to make it show its face. I complain, but I do not know of, for now, a better way.
Let's begin by clearing up some misconceptions. First, we have different objectives. Your goal seems to be accelerating the cycle of regimes from democracy to monarchy. My goal is to halt and reverse political decomposition and return to the beginnings of the republic, counter-revolution. We also have a deep disagreement over the nature of history. You argue that there are no rails, no destiny, no divinity, and nothing beyond human contingency.
I mean, like, listen, so we can have a real conversation about this, right? At the end of the day, I've made the argument, and I will continue to make this argument until somebody gives me a proper, actual, like, answer, you know what I mean, that, you know, is counter, you know what I mean, like, fucking to my narrative that our geography has more to do with our success than anything the fuck else. And it's not our system or our government or our way of life that has anything to do with us or the people. It has everything to do with the fact that, like, this geography is OP as fuck. Like, legitimately, right? You know what I mean? And, like, this whole idea of this being, like, ridiculous, you know what I mean, like, nonsense about, oh, you know, we're Christian, you know what I mean, Anglos who've done, like, the fuck up, stupid, all right, dumb, all right, legitimately. But you know what? No, listen, there's Christian Anglos who settled in Belize, too. How are they fucking doing? let's keep rocking.
This nihilistic argument creates considerable problems for you because it eliminates all possibility of making normative judgments. What is the ground of your convictions? What is the telos of your political system? And, if America is ordinary, contingent, and accidental, why care about its future at all? My conviction is that there is a logical structure to human nature and, consequently, a structure of political order.
Man, listen.
The American founders were not ordinary
out.
politicians, but men of extraordinary vision and virtue who solved the core political problem posed by classical political philosophy and thereby created the most secure, free, and virtuous republic in history, with unprecedented innovations in commerce, technology, and the arts. You ridicule the category of problems to be solved, but pragmatism is the Anglo-American political spirit. I see in your pessimism an excuse for inaction. I am grateful that you recognize that my work is valuable in revealing the enemy and that brave and capable men can fight it. This is enough. I have no illusion that my work alone will topple the regime. But I am doing what I can to contribute to that possibility in the future. Small victories yield new insights and open up new lines of action. Politics is not an abstraction. Real-world fights generate greater practical knowledge than idle fantasies. You sneer about 11 staffers laid off at the University of Florida, which I cannot help but find puzzling. In fact, we abolished all public university DEI departments in multiple states, poisoned the concept of DEI in the realm of public opinion, and sent the private DEI industry into contraction, with prominent firms slashing DEI programs to the bone. This is only a beginning, of course, but there will always be a beginning, and it is better to fight, win, and build in small succession than to speculate about some future cataclysm.
Can I say this, bro? With the contraction that happened after COVID, right? In the AI revolution that came through, right? The majority of that DEI shit was in tech firms, right? You know, like Google, Twitter, whatever it is, right? Facebook. All these companies, right, did not have the investment to be able to continue to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Have like unlimited funding forever, right? You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, oh, you know, we're going to continue to have this boomer money. Like, so in 2019, when things like DEI and all this stuff was like hitting the fucking roof and the ceiling, everything was going crazy, right? It wasn't because, you know, we had made like really good decisions, right? The reason is because of the fact that like boomers were throwing all of their goddamn money into the stock market, right, and looking for yield. So here's something about the market. A lot of people don't know, but I'm gonna tell you, most people do know. We're probably in here because like, oh, you're my subs. It is what it is, right? Taking something from 0 to 1, right, is infinite growth. So like growing a company from being, you know, what I mean, like just some startup to being this, you know, what I mean, multi-global company where it has profit, you know, what I mean, is infinite fucking growth. It's like taking Dogecoin from 0.00000000005 cents, right, to like fucking 3 cents is infinite, right? Just, you know, it's the number that you had to put up, that like when you put like, you know, like 10 to the power of like blah, whatever, right? These are important concepts, and this is what the boomers were doing, is they were looking for yield in their last years before they hit mass retirement. More than half of the boomers are already retired, right? So there are 6 years left before all the boomers are fucking done. It's 2030, I think it would be, right? In the year 2030, all the boomers will be done retired. It all hit 65 anyway, right? So, you know, like right now, my dad's 66. He was born at 58, right? You know what I mean? Like this is where we are. And boomers start in 45, 46, right? So it's 12 years in. We got another fucking 6 years and it's done with. Because boomers run to 65. 1964. 1964 is the end of the boomers, right? So that's where we are. You know what I mean? And the big chunks already gone. So there's not a lot of investment. So the fact that like he contracted a DEI, I don't know if it had a lot to do with him or more to do with the fact that this didn't have the free money to be able to throw at these stupid programs. Let's keep rocking now.
American history teaches us that every revolution, or counter-revolution, begins with a break in the trend line. Well into the 1770s, Samuel Adams and the Sons of Liberty despaired that the fight with the crown would never come. But they patiently seeded the ground, disseminated their propaganda, established their small conspiracies, and drew the British into a series of dramatic fights. It was because of that work they were ready when the moment came, able to turn a triviality, 300 crates of spilled tea, into a world historical event. You assert that you're a radical. But who is really the radical here? As we both know, the word radical...
Yo, listen, hang on a minute. I hope he's just like being facetious, right? Because like if he actually thinks that 300 like crates of spilled tea was like the reason why. I mean, because like there was a lot of things that happened coming up to that point. Right? Like a lot. You know, There was, like the fucking tax collectors that were tarred and feathered, right? There were there were British soldiers who were fired upon, right? There was all types of stuff that happened in this run up to all this shit happening. Like the fucking governor was his house was burned the fuck down, right? There's all this shit that happened, and like there was much more to this, right? Than just some fucking tea thing that happened. That's like the one that we all like rally behind, right? Because it's like, as I was saying, fuck you. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, listen, I hope he's being facetious.
Means striking at the roots, which is earthly, tangible, physical work. Your work, while providing valuable concepts and metaphors, is not grounded in experience. It is ethereal, rather than earthly, literature, rather than politics. You are not digging to the roots, but grasping at clouds. I am a conservative, but not in the way you imagine. I use the label as a convenient way to position myself in the political debate, but I am neither conservative by temperament, nor by political ambition. I want to destroy the status quo, rather than preserve it. But I am not so naive as to think that it can.
Bro, listen. How do I put this? DEI is not roots. Okay? You want to start getting to roots, you got to go back to like Voltaire. Like, you got to go back to the Scottish Enlightenment. You want to get the roots. You got to get like to the merchants. You got to go way back on that one. I don't know what the fuck, like, bro, I don't like Chris Rufo. I really think he's fucking dumb. He's either dumb, a grifter, or just, like a terrible liar, right? Because like all the things that he says are just wrong. As an like, what we do on my channel is get to the roots. This is where we live, right? We live in the weeds. We live in the roots. This is how we do what we do. This is where we make our fucking money, right? It's literally the roots. This is what we do, right? And that's why like other guys look at us and go, bro, like, listen, you don't got a lot of subs, but like, I love what you're saying. Like, your concepts are amazing. Why? Because like, we're going back. Right, we're doing the history. We're doing the legwork. Me and TK did a fucking 3-hour stream one time about like fucking how the banning of cousin marriage led to fucking liberalism. Right? Listen, like we go roots. That is roots. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep going though.
Or it should be destroyed all at once. There are principles and elements deeper in the structure that hold profound truth. And I believe that excavating and reanimating those principles is what we should be doing.
Chris, you were a liberal in your 20s, right? Or at least your teens? There's no shame in it. If I'm wrong, at least I know you worked for PBS, so you know the mindset. You realize, I hope, that when you were a liberal, you were lost in the liberal myth. You were just as smart as you are now. But your present history of the world you lived in was just plain nonsense. It was Plato's cave. This narrative, which of course most people like us are still just as trapped in, is one in which it is impossible to think logically. Any real plan made within this false narrative will come to pure disaster, because its calculations will fail, like trying to build a rocket within a physics engine in which 2 + 2 = 5. But somehow, you believe you have a perfectly clear historical picture of the 1770s? This is like saying that since you successfully walked up Mount Tamalpais, Everest will be no problem. You are confident enough in your narrative to make it the basis of real-world plans which you are selling seriously to serious people. Let me hit you over the head with just how huge a mistake this is. If this historical picture is not a picture of reality as it actually was, if it is instead a myth, your whole campaign is nothing but a grift. Most grifters are grifters not because this is what they want to be, but because their grift depends on some false assumption that they avoid looking into themselves. They have simply failed to test themselves deeply enough. Chris, in this conversation, I will give you the historical tools to test your false assumptions. It is up to you whether to use them, and if so, what to do with that. TLDR, it was a breakthrough for you when you realized that it wasn't that leftism needed to be fixed, it was that leftism was wrong. Then it was another huge breakthrough for you when you realized that Nelson Mandela was actually just a leftist. Then it was another huge breakthrough for you when you realized that Martin Luther King was actually just a leftist. Notice how you're exiting from a series of nested Plato's caves. But you think you're done, don't you? I want to see the expression on your face when you realize that Samuel Adams was actually just a leftist. Here is your first tool, a debate between Samuel Adams and John Adams. I actually like John, perhaps the only president who was a true statesman. It's in English. It'll take you a half hour to read. Don't you think it's worth it? Since you are putting all your chips and everyone else's on reanimating Sam Adams, beer guy, don't you think it's worth actually getting to know him directly? Along with another American hero and HBO superstar? My view is, John, who is obviously on the right side of this argument about the theory of government, totally destroys his distant cousin Sam, who is obviously on the left. Does this text not speak to you? Long S and all? If it does not, I despair. Moreover, I find it disturbing and deranged that you seem to equate the revolutionary sons of liberty left-wing politics with all the revolutionary terrorist cell stuff you love so much. You see how well LARPing that worked on January 6th of the 1770s with the reactionary federalist right-wing politics of the 1780s, Sam Adams with John Adams. They were both centered in Boston? What do you think went on there? You are so confident of this historical example that all your practical designs for the real world hinge on it, and yet your understanding of the period seems inferior to, say, the average Brazilian's knowledge of American politics today. In fact, in your 18th century history, you don't even seem able to tell left from right. This level of historical understanding is the pole star that is guiding us? That is going to turn back the tide and keep America from becoming the third world? I say to you, on behalf of all your donors, fans and supporters, what the hell, Chris? As you must know, America went through two republics in the late 18th century, the Articles of Confederation, 1777 to 1789, and the Constitution, 1789 present? 1789 to 1861? 1789 to 1933? 1789 to 1965? Take your pick, I guess, lol. Question. Beyond its military leadership, do you know anything about the First American Republic, other than that it failed? Who were the political leaders of the Congress of the Confederation? Who was the first president, for instance? Why did it fail? Why do you think this period has been utterly bleached from modern American memory? My American inspiration for regime change, the reactionary coup that shut down the old Congress and created the Constitution. 1780s politics is not 1770s politics. And there is always a Plato's cave around the Plato's cave. Do you think John Adams skins his cousin alive? Bear in mind that this is an older, chastened Sam Adams. Think Bill Ayers the education professor, not Bill Ayers the terrorist. Try this 1770s debate between John Adams, on the left, and Jonathan Sewell, on the right. You'll see Adams gets completely owned himself. Try this refutation to the Declaration of Independence, on the left, by Thomas Hutchinson, the greatest American statesman of the 18th century, on the right. And Hutchinson is neither a Jacobite, nor a Catholic. You, a right-winger, have never read a right-wing history of the American Revolution. Try this one by Sidney Fisher, from 1903. Neighbor, you are in for a treat. You don't have time? Oh, you have time to use your narrative of the period, which is ancient leftist garbage with a weird Harry Yaffa neocon 20th century egg wash, as the leading star of your program. But you don't have time to look into whether this historical novel has anything to do with reality, or whether you just think your big plans will work because something like them worked in Dune, or Spider-Man, or Paw Patrol. Even everyone's two favorite American statesmen, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, cover this territory in their incredible exchange of letters 40 years later. Jefferson asks, who can ever tell the story of the American Revolution? Adams is like, nobody. Why? Because everything public was propaganda. Then as now. What did you think? Do you think Goebbels invented propaganda? Chris, you unbelievably innocent person. You are pretty shrewd in the 21st century, I grant it, but once we turn the time dial back to the 18th, you make Forrest Gump look cynical. But then Jefferson and Adams both agree that this history, by Carlo Botta, a moderate post-Napoleonic liberal, written in the style of Thucydides, is good. And it is. It's not Fisher, but can you at least maybe read Botta, before you keep going off on 18th century history, as if you just completely knew you knew what you were talking about? Remember when you used to think that way about Dr. King? Is it so hard to understand that Sam Adams is just another mythic hero with two left feet of clay? Pro tip, the American Revolution was basically the Vietnam War in the 18th century, and you're currently inhabiting the Jane Fonda position. This is what I meant by lost in history. It's actually more like stoned on history. When you reread your response above, doesn't it seem
Bro, listen, I love Yarvin. Yarvin's like, listen, bro, like, yo, have you read any of the source material? Do you know anything about any of these fucking people, bro? Like, do you know anything at all? Like, legitimately, right? Like, it is patently fucking ridiculous that we let guys like Chris Rufo just say words out of their face holes. Like, it really is. Let's keep rocking. Yo, Yarvin just eats him up, bro, like 100%. And then fucking Rufo goes, "You just seem like you're whining and you only support losers." Like, yo, listen. Maybe we should take a lesson from the people who lost. Like, that's usually the most important lesson is you learn from the motherfucker who lost, not from the guy who won. Right? Keeping it 100. You want to learn how not to lose. Like, let's keep going, though.
To blossom with a vague and glorious haze, like Obama's autobiography, wafting from the windows of a broken-down VW Beetle. And you believe not only that the political narratives of the 18th century were true and worked as designed, not despite themselves, for them, but that they also will work for us. Jesus. Nurse, I'm going to need the Thorazine, stat, no, the big vials. Do you have any idea how different the Americans of 2024 are from the Americans of 1774? Don't you know that the most basic principle of constitutional theory, one thoroughly shared by the founders themselves, is that no constitution is adequate for all peoples? Or am I wrong? Maybe Haiti could use our constitution and its principles, too? Golly gee. Why hasn't someone tried that? Call the Clinton Foundation. You are simply on crack. It is easy to ask yourself if you are using history appropriately or not. If you are using history appropriately, the people in that history would, if brought to the present time, approve of the way they are being represented. I am pretty sure that if you could bring any of the founders on a tour of 2024, they would agree that the regime they saw had nothing at all to do with the regime they invented, except perhaps in as much.
Yo, can we shout out my man from the 2-Bit podcast and shit, bro? Like, listen, civilizational capital, dog. 100%. Like, listen, we have 4 or 5 or 1,000 years worth of fucking capital built up of us, like, standing here doing what we say we're going to fucking do. That's why it is that, like, yo, our shit works for us and it doesn't work for others, because everybody else has their own constitution and they're constantly falling down, and Haiti's being ran by a dude named Barbecue. Like, you're legit.
Much as it falsified all their theories. Certainly if they had to choose between George III and this, they would go with George III. Shit, they would probably go with Henry III. And you're taking their names in vain? As for your achievements, here is a simple way to evaluate them. What would you do if you had absolute power? What percentage of that have you achieved so far? How many orders of magnitude is it from 100%? Here is another example. You must be aware that woke is a synonym for progressive. You probably even know that progressive, at least after 1930 or so, meant what Leslie Fiedler, Dean of the Liberals, defined it as in 1953, communist or sympathizer. And communist in American political discourse has a special meaning, a member of the party, which means nothing today or in any other party. No one today could speak of a fascist or sympathizer, or even a Trumpist or sympathizer, since neither is an existing revolutionary organization. Somehow, we all use the communist meaning of communist. Forget about this pretzel logic, forget the long-defunct history of centralized American communism, and progressive just means communist. Therefore, your struggle against wokeness is precisely paralleled by Joe McCarthy's fight against communism. Now, compare the achievements of McCarthyism to yours. Compare his situation. Here is the full passage from Fiedler, in his essay on the Rosenbergs, describing the progressive articles of faith of the 1950s. The belief that the state and its courts are always wrong, that the bourgeoisie is always wrong, and especially that the United States, the bastion of capitalism, is always wrong, with the corollaries that no Negro, Jew, or progressive, i.e. communist or sympathizer, can ever be anything but innocent. So, McCarthy lost. He was utterly destroyed. And what did McCarthy have on his side? The state. The courts. The FBI. Now, in progressive theology, these institutions are always right, because all of them have been completely captured. What is your plan to take them back? You would only get to where McCarthy started out, and McCarthy lost. What we see with these victories is that, since they are victories only in name, all they do is make the enemy change its name, like James O'Keefe's victory over Acorn. Question, is there anyone who you got fired who is actually, right now, looking for work? You could check. I reiterate that it is all in vain, and it will have exactly the same long-term impact as Ward Connerly's crusade against affirmative action or Anita Bryant's war on gays. For every faceless drone you fire, you activate and energize the equivalent of 10 more. You are just pruning the forest.
Brushing aside your insults in search of your argument, I cannot help but notice you make multiple errors of fact and employ a shallow, one-dimensional conceptual framework. For example, the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, not 1965. Samuel Adams was a Puritan maltster, not a Marxist brewer. In fact, the concepts of left and right did not emerge until after the French Revolution. So your conceptualization of the
I fucking hate dumb people so much. First off, I don't care when the Civil Rights Act was passed, right? I'm pretty sure the bill was started in 64 and then got approved in 65. That literally doesn't matter, just as a whole. There's a cat on my shoulder at the moment, right? Number one. Number two, the idea of Samuel Adams being a leftist, literally, we understand that the word state didn't come to be until 1529, but we still talk about the city-states of, the Greeks. These fucking people, legitimately, I don't understand. 100% Samuel Adams was a leftist. Samuel Adams literally was a leftist fucking revolutionary. 100, he was not right-wing. At all, right? You want to talk about, peaceful protests, all the type of shit. You gotta go to the Quakers for that type of shit. You know what I mean? It wasn't the situation up in Boston. Them motherfucking dudes, literally, Samuel Adams literally fucking lied, right? In that fucking trial of the British fucking soldiers at, the shot heard around the world, when they fired on them, they fired on that crowd. Samuel Adams literally lied to the judge and committed fucking perjury, right? And gave false testimony against these fucking soldiers. He was not right wing. The fuck out of here with your nonsense, bro.
American Revolution, which I believe is better described as a counter-revolution, is obviously ahistorical, similar to reading Shakespeare through a transgender lens, and no more illuminating. The main problem is you look at history ideologically. You assess events against a single axis, separating leftists from rightists, and measuring individual figures against your abstract political formula. I prefer to look at history holistically and critically, across multiple axes, recognizing ambiguities and tensions. In different ways, and for different reasons, I admire Samuel Adams as well as John Adams, Thomas Paine as well as Edmund Burke, Thomas Jefferson as well as Alexander Hamilton. The American Revolution, like all historical events, was a mixture of forces, personalities, and ideas, which, seen as a totality, I believe was a force for good. You seem to disagree. Your historical method also seems to...
Okay. Listen, I respect John Adams. John Adams was not a left-winger in any means, right? John Adams was 100% right-wing. You know what I mean? He pleaded and he begged, right, to, stand here and have peace, right? And, reconcile. He literally even represented the soldiers, when that shit happened, you know what I mean? He represented British soldiers, right? He was offered the governorship. He was offered all types of shit. And he said, no, I don't really want that, right? He joined the Continental Congress, right, as a whole, because he seen that this was the only option available to him. And when he wrote the Constitution for Massachusetts, had his say on the Constitution, just like Jefferson as well. They sat here and they said, listen, you need the fucking president to basically be a fucking king, right? And when you talk about, man, I swear to God, this fucking cat, man, is a fucking weirdo, eating snacks and shit. But this is, man, go read the fucking history, dude. Legit, I'm going to be here soon starting Friends Divided between Adams and Jefferson, where they wrote these letters back and forth 40 years later. You know what I mean? Because Gio recommended it to me. It's one of the, it's an amazing fucking book, and I read part of it thus far, but I'm going to have to really get into it. You should probably read the fucking primary sources of this type of shit. It's fucking ridiculous that we're having this conversation in 2024 and you have a conservative goes shouting out these guys who were 100% leftist and half of them weren't even fucking Christian. It's fucking ridiculous.
Confuse the nature of victory and defeat. You amuse yourself by condemning the losers of history, yet you celebrate George III, who lost the War of Independence, as well as the royalist governor Thomas Hutchinson, who was chased out of his home, humiliated in the colonial press, and finally self-deported back to England. You acclaim Hutchinson's supposed refutation of the Declaration of Independence, but did you notice where he wrote it? London, England. While the American founders were charting a Novus Ordo Seclorum, your man Hutchinson was...
Yo, Ear Juice, what up, man? Listen, I ain't seen you out here in forever, bro. As always, it is beautiful to have you out in the chat, man. Got nothing but love for you. How you been, man? Listen, I haven't fucking seen nor hide nor hairy your ass in like forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Like legit. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of like hanging the fuck out because like I'm bored and I'm awake and you know what I mean? Like I haven't done a live stream in a long time, so I guess I'm kind of just making up for it a little bit. But like, yeah, we're just listening to some like political shit and some, you know, academic type of stuff. You know what I mean? Catching up on some things. Like, yo, I just figured, you know, hang out a little bit and spend some time. But it's nice to have you out here, Ear Juice. You know what I mean? Let's keep rocking though.
Was impotently whining and complaining at home, an archetype for which, I can appreciate, you might feel some kinship. Now let us transport ourselves forward to the 20th century. With enough italics to make one seasick, you say that Joseph McCarthy lost, he was utterly destroyed. But McCarthy won. He sacrificed himself for the Republic, yes, but if we look at the 20th century as a whole, America was still the last asylum for mankind. McCarthy, Nixon, Burnham, and others held back the movement of communism in America, which could have easily turned out differently. You denigrate the historical American regime and express a desire for a true sovereign who rules with an iron fist. So, which 20th century state earns your ideological favor? Germany? Russia? Some tribal monarch in the heart of Africa? I have never believed that the principles of our Constitution can be realized by all people, at all times, and neither did the American founders. But I do believe that the principles of 1776, reinterpreted in the light of history and reanimated in the public spirit, can still guide us, the people who established them, into the future. You would have us believe that America today has no continuity with the America of the past. You pose as a grand historian, a sage in a leather jacket, but you foolishly assume that 250 years is a long period of historical time and cannot bear a continuity. I think that is short-sighted and defeatist. It seems to me that your attempts to prove your cleverness betrays a lack of wisdom, the higher virtue. Always, incessantly, you claim to care about power, about absolute power. Yet you speak mostly of debate, in a highly rhetorical, even juvenile, way. You write that John Adams destroyed Samuel Adams, that Thomas Hutchinson refuted Thomas Jefferson, and that Jonathan Sewell completely owned John Adams, as if political history was a bad YouTube playlist. Is this the way you think it works? Let's be real. You claim to have immense ambitions, although you don't seem inclined to elaborate on them, but what are your practical accomplishments? My record is well documented. If you permit me a moment of immodesty, my work has mobilized public opinion, launched a grassroots movement, inspired a presidential order, ousted the president of Harvard, recruited a cohort of billionaire defectors, pushed the DEI complex into contraction, and changed the law in every red state, some of which have restricted left-wing race and gender theories in schools, abolished DEI in universities, and instituted universal school choice statewide. This work is admittedly tentative and incomplete, but it has initiated a real shift in culture, law, and governance that might, with continued effort, provide a pathway for a return to the beginnings of the Republic. What about you? What is your practical politics and what have you done toward achieving it? If your ideas have thus far been unable to win and govern a local school board, why should we assume that they can govern a complex nation?
Listen, I'm not gonna. Oh, listen, man. You know we're on my live stream. I'll be honest. All right, listen. Like, yo, look, we got 2 or 3 senators in, right? Off of like, you know, Yarvin and what the fuck's his name's motherfucking joints, right? Peter Thiel, right? You know what I mean? Like, we have Peter Thiel, you know what I mean, help of a few fucking senators, you know what I mean, get elected. We're in there right now. I'm just saying, we do, and we have moved things and changed the ideas of shit. You know what I mean? Like, yo, let's keep this all the way funky about things. You know, like, there's a lot of change that has happened. You know what I mean?
Forgive me, but I cannot help but suspect that your manic combination of grandiosity and fatalism is an excuse for inaction. You are waiting for the cataclysm, rather than patiently building the conditions for concrete political action. You have set up a series of false dilemmas, and then praise yourself for not falling into the trap. For example, you accuse me of not having fired any DEI bureaucrats and then, in your very next sentence, argue that my having fired DEI bureaucrats will simply spawn more. Here is the logical conclusion of your philosophy: if you fight your enemies, they win. Is that a fair description? I hope in your closing, you will come back down to earth. What is it you want and how will you accomplish?
There's a solid argument to be made. Politically, spiritually, and psychologically, that if you fight, you will lose. You give them the monster to rally against. Just saying. How do I put this? Going looking for a hug from government daddy is not going to help you, right? I mean, it'll help, it may do some shit temporarily, but long term, ultimately what you're saying is like you have the sovereignty, right? So like you have the power. That's what you're saying. And so in saying that, in knowing that, in being that, fighting and not, how do I put this? Injuring a man to the point of where he can come back and harm you, it's extremely dangerous for you. And you're basically being a mosquito just stinging the shit out of somebody. You're eventually going to get swatted. It's just reality. You know what I mean? This is where we are.
Shit. Where did you read me as condemning history's losers? My history is a loser's history. I like to be right. History's losers are usually in the right. And they always think they are. Why else would anyone fight a war they could reasonably expect to lose? Why, for that matter, are you a conservative? Do you know the name Sam Francis? Your abuse of history continues. You attribute the outbreak of the Cold War, a 1940s phenomenon, to McCarthyism, a 1950s phenomenon. You prefer to look at history holistically and critically, across multiple axes, recognizing ambiguities and tensions. GPT-4 much? As far as I can tell, you do not know anything about these periods, you have never read any full books from them, and you probably never will. Maybe Claremont fed you a few excerpts? The revolutionary nature of the Revolutionary War is not subtle, complex, or in dispute. If you prefer a 20th century treatment, try Gordon Wood's Radicalism of the American Revolution. I'm sure Harry Yaffa was a wonderful philosopher. He was no historian, and it shows. Don't even start me on his Civil War. Yes, I am saying that fighting for fighting's sake is retarded. The only reason to fight is to win. Don't compare your victories to nothing, Chris. That's the grifter way. Compare them to winning. If you have no picture of winning, you are a grifter. If you do have a picture of winning, what % of that picture have you achieved? Another good test of impact: if I didn't read any media at all, would your actions have changed my direct experience of the world? Any impact below this level is not felt but can only be measured. In other words, it is negligible. You think you have a picture of winning. On any close inspection, it dissolves into myths and absurdities. Your future is the same cheap vinyl as your Paw Patrol history. My future is dirty and expensive and came off the back of a cow. Try it when you're tired of getting wet. Do you want to repeal the Civil Rights Act of, yes lol, 1964? To end anti-white discrimination? Great. You'll find it already bans anti-white discrimination. Now that's winning. But to win even more, why not a Simon Says I Mean It law? What is it with those liberal judges, anyway? Maybe the internet can convince them to come to their senses? An even better historical test for your real-world achievements: measure them next to Anita Bryant's anti-gay crusade from the late 70s. You don't think Anita Bryant drove legislation? You don't think she had dinners with billionaires? That she even got people, gay teachers, gays, in our schools, doing the gay, fired? The result, 50 years later, a Wikipedia page. What is real power? Who decides? Who decided that now people can't say homeless, it has to be unhoused? Say the E out loud, like an Elizabethan. My lord, thou art unhoused. Was it a person? A committee? Who knows? How close are you to this power? Given your resume as a PBS producer, maybe closer than me, but at least I am the reason people say pilled. I also think we are seeing the first literally kinetic impact of the outer right on reality in the new Republican isolationism and its effect on the Ukraine war, hopefully shortening it. I think this is because of Young Hill staffers who are clued in. I think people understate the relevance of my modified Austrian monetary theory to Bitcoin, especially since Nick Szabo was on the blog roll. And to some I am still mainly a computer scientist. My picture of winning is very clear. You probably think it is impossible. It would be neat if you could admit that the only reason it is impossible is that everyone thinks it is impossible. They do. They are too busy believing in your picture, which they saw on Paw Patrol. At least your direct mail market of literally demented boomer patriots knows one big thing: how to donate. Unfortunately, it seems impossible to lead these people without also being led by them, leaving you, as a 40-year-old Norwood one, in this historical second childhood. Please consider the possibility that you are just too good for your own scene.
Over the course of this dialogue, I have asked you a series of basic questions, which you have systematically ignored. Your contribution has consisted instead, for the most part, of childish insults, bouts of paranoia, heavy italics, pointless digressions, competitive bibliography, and allusions to cartoons. It's disturbing to realize that this is how your mind works now. I don't think it was always this way, but here we are. What seems characteristic about your current position is that your rhetoric is constantly working to prove that you're smarter than anyone else, but when one tries to locate what it is that you actually think, he cannot help but discover that there really isn't much substance there. Ultimately, you are a sophist. Your writing might create a small magnetic field, but underneath it, there is nothing. You write, astonishingly, that your picture of winning is very clear. But what you have actually written here amounts to vague, half-baked gestures about absolute power. When asked to define it, you offer us Paw Patrol. I will concede that you have a knack for entertaining metaphors, pilled, dark elves, red hobbits. But this only underscores the point that you are doing literature, rather than politics. Lifting metaphors from action films and fantasy novels is not a substitute for the practical work of governance, or even the practical work of serious thought. You're too clever not to know this, but you are also too arrogant to fully accept it. In your opening statement, you admit, I complain, but I do not know of, for now, a better way. This is the most honest thing you've said here, and a summary self-indictment. Instead of meeting the challenge and hardship of responsibility, you comfort yourself with the dictum that history's losers are usually in the right, like a sullen teenager who insists that everything is pointless, because he doesn't want to make an effort. I have a different attitude. Some things are rotten in our republic, yes, but there is always nobility in constructive action. My work has not only shifted perceptions, but shifted the direct experience of the world for many people, and I am committed to making sure it continues to do so. I don't know what you're committed to, and, sadly, I don't think you do either. Ultimately, we offer two paths. Our readers must decide: step into the opium den with Curtis Yarvin, or into the arena with other men.
Yo, listen. Let me put this way, right? Being in the arena is dumb at this moment, in this juncture, right? And I'm going to tell you why, right? People are still fighting for a premise that doesn't make any fucking sense, right? Yeah, fucking TK, bro. Listen, Rufo's not going to read. He's fucking too stupid to read. I'm pretty sure he might be, like, functionally illiterate. Yeah, so this is kind of the point, right? So when you think of conservatives in America, right? What you think of is like guys who, you know what I mean, like wave the American flag and they put them on the back of their pickup trucks when it comes, like, you know, like whatever, right? And they're still fighting to save a system that fucking hates them, right? And has been actively trying to replace them. Yo, man, what up, Kelly? Right? You know what I'm saying? Listen, I'm just, I was bored, right? So, you know, whatever. I ain't done a live stream in like fucking a year. So I figured I'd do one, right? Again, like the mentality is, right, as a whole, is that, you know, these people, Like they're still fighting for a system that has been actively trying to fucking replace them and been actively trying to destroy them and actively fucking over their families and been taking away their fucking kids and have just been destroying them for like years, right? So, I mean, what is the fucking point, right? At the end of the day, like, what is, like, or no. Until they're ready to like stand here and have something the fuck else, which is what needs to happen. You need to have other things on offer, right? You have to have other shit and go like, listen, I don't want to be part of this anymore. I want to be part of that, right? Which we're nowhere near. I mean, you're the Greater Idaho movement, which again is literally just, I don't want to be part of this state. I want to be part of this state, right? It's dumb. You know what I mean? It's literally just representation and dumb politics that don't matter on the state level. You know what I mean? Because like federally, they're going to get fucked because Idaho don't have a real fucking government, right? So they're going to live under fucking federal guidelines. You know, like it's different if you're in PA or Massachusetts or New York or fucking, you know, Baltimore or Delaware or, you know what I mean, fucking Virginia, right? Where you have like Georgia, where you have real governments. You know what I mean? You know, states out west don't have real governments. They don't have like functional institutions. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, right? So like most of their shit, they have to live off of the federal government, which is why like, you know, they don't have local shit, right? Because you don't have a fucking local FDA. Like we have a local fucking, you know what I mean, like fucking Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. That way you don't have to worry about the federal Department of Agriculture. You can sell in-state to in-state people through fucking the in-state fucking thing, right? And get certified from the state. And the state, you know what I mean, like, you know, the state has a functional institution. You know what I mean? This actually matters when you change like your fucking representation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I feel you, TK. I feel you. So, like, it's kind of where we are. So, what we need to do, right, as a whole, right, is you need to have, like, people ready to actually, like, be willing to, like, change governments completely, right, and redraw borders and all these type of things. You have to have, like, you know, listen, I don't want to be part of that. Like, listen, I'm not an American anymore. I'm this, right, and that we are not at yet. You know, and so if you're still fighting to fix the thing that's like literally trying to fuck you, right? Like if you're still fighting to like be a part of this garbage ass system and make this garbage ass system work for you, you know what I mean? Like you're not ready for like the change that actually has to happen in order for like this shit to like become remotely fucking functional. You know what I mean? For be able to make the change, like stand here and have like that paradigm shift in your head to where like now fighting makes fucking sense, right? Because you can't just be fighting against like other people inside of your own fucking country. That's dumb, right? When literally they're going to outnumber you here soon. You're going to be a fucking minority. Reality. Yeah, I know, TK. Like, listen, this is why I try to tell you, come out here, bro. Like, real shit. You know what I mean? I'll be honest, our governor's based as fuck. He's a Democrat, he's based. Real shit. He's that dude. You know, but he does suck the administration's dick way too much. But this is where we are, you know? So, like, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. All right, I gotta go fucking, like, make some food, eat some shit, and go to fuck to bed. So I can wake up and go to work today. But, you know what I mean? I thank everybody for coming the fuck out. Y'all know the deal. I might be out later. You know what I mean? Yeah, listen, I'm Tom Pease with Pnoid News. Yeah, listen, conservatives need to stop being about freedom. I'm going to holla at y'all. I'm out. Peace.